It was his nickname one time.
Like on Magic Online?
No, just here with us.
Japanese Playboy? Okay.
Dude, the only change I've made to the Magic Online account was spelling like Salvatorix, but all in caps.
Yeah, it's so cool. Caps letters are cool, bro.
Was it like the hardest decision for you to be like, oh, how do I like style Salvatorix?
Oh yeah, it was also probably like the person at Magic Online who's like what the hell is this? You know, why is this necessary?
Do you know how you can spot somebody who's like a real old school on Magic Online?
The Birds of Paradise avatar. Oh, that's a new player.
Oh really? No, that's the first avatar you get, right?
Yeah, but like I think a lot of the new players have a newer card avatar. They change it quickly, but like some people have just had Birds of Paradise forever.
The thing is, I guess I've been using my avatar on Magic Online for over 10 years now as well, but that still doesn't come anywhere close to being super old school, because the people who are really super old school, there's two things. You can have a space in your name. Like you notice, like when you make an account these days, you cannot have a space in your name, but some people can. And also some people, and I wasn't there, I only have this like on second-hand account or something. If you have the name of a Magic card on Magic Online, for example, Andrea Cuneo, his nickname on Magic Online is Gainsay, right? The counter spell that counters another blue spell. Those were given out. If I remember correctly, what I was told is that at the very beginning, when Magic Online was like, I don't know, beta, whatever, you didn't pick your nickname, you were assigned a nickname, and all of the assigned nicknames were card names. So he got Gainsay, which is like super cool, right? It's not like Stinkweedimp or something. I guess that wasn't around back then as well. Or was it? Yeah, actually it was.
I don't know about this. I think he's like been called that on other platforms for a long time before. I'm not sure though. He's always been associated with Gainsay to me, so I'm not sure it's like assigned.
Like imagine like if you open up an account and like you get assigned like let's say Brain Maggot for example.
Hell yeah!
and you're like I didn't sign up for this.
Hashtag this is my life now.
Oh man, I would love to be called Brain Maggot. I might make a new account for that now. You know what?
Cloud Ranger not so cool anymore.
I've been thinking about making a new account, and it might just be Brain Maggot. I love that.
Because that must be such a hassle. Like if you don't like it, you gotta like delete your account and make a new account, and you gotta like repeat this process until you get a decent card, right? Like
imagine getting Thalia, Guardian of Thraben.
Oh my goodness, dude, I would throw up.
They pay you to make the account. Yeah.
With that, everybody, hello and welcome to Everyday Eternal number 155, your favorite, most deceptively named bi-weekly Legacy podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our Patreon, Colin Garassi, who actually upgraded their Patreon pledge. Thank you so much for that.
Hey.
If you want to support the running of the show directly, you can support us on patreon.com/everydayeternal. My name is Julian Knapp. I'm here with Callum Smith and Brain Maggot, aka Salvatorix, Kai Salvatoric. And guys, how's it going? It's been another 2 weeks since our last episode. I've been working a lot on the switch to the new RSS feed and the new website, which is literally days away from coming out. So there's like a 50-50 chance this still comes out on the old RSS feed or on the new one. I will see in the next couple of days. But
Exciting.
this is exciting times for us, even though I guess for a lot of people nothing will change except for seeing our beautiful faces on the website.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm good. Just I got to play some Vintage on the weekend, which was really fun. I played some Urza. Francis, shout out to Francis again. He's been running these kind of like roughly quarterly Vintage tournaments. This was the second one. And there's 23 players, which is really cool for Vintage, for just like one city and not like a big European kind of event thing. And so I was going to build a deck that Patrick, aka Kinda, recommended, which had like Sauron's Talismans and then 4 Chaos Defilers with workshops. And then I just completely forgot about the tournament until Sunday morning, and I woke up. I was like, oh yeah, this has got to go. So I just quickly went to Goldfish and I found a deck with Urza in. And so I built 8 cast, which was from Montolia. And I managed to win. It was great.
Awesome. That was the London the London Vintage Quarterly or something?
Yeah, something like that. I don't think he has like an official name, but it says London Vintage Tournament on the trophies, so let's go with that.
Oh, you got a trophy as well?
Yeah, of course you do.
Dude,
we give away trophies in London.
I don't know why, but somehow, Kai, have you ever gotten like a trophy at like a small or mid-sized event in Germany?
I don't have any trophy at my apartment.
Guys, sort it out. It's like they're not very expensive. I promise you. I buy them.
wait, Kai, didn't you win Prague Eternal?
Oh yeah, that's the only like quote unquote trophy I got, but that's not an actual
big,
trophy.
right?
It's a playmat. It's a hand drawn playmat.
Sort it out, guys. I have like 10 trophies on my shelf.
Oh, dude.
Sort it out. You need to win some more.
Like you got so many, like you can almost like start to reuse them maybe for some other event. Maybe.
So after 10 years, like when nobody notices, like you scratch off the date and you just
know what?
give it out again.
I actually did that once.
Really? Tell us about it.
For the last event before COVID, I already had ordered the trophies, and then they went to waste. So I think one of the events back, like I found them in a bag, just be like, oh shit, I wasted 4 trophies. So I just gave the winners extra trophies. It's like, yeah, have these as well.
Dude, I have like too many trophies in my part. Like, here, you got one, you know.
Dude, you got first place and you got first place again twice.
Yeah, you got first place in 2019. Yeah. First place in 2022. You're amazing.
A quick question to you guys. Like, what's your opinion on like those trophies that like go around from player to player? You know.
If you have like a big belt thing, it's kind of cool. I just like buying the trophies. Like, they're just cool for someone to keep. They put on their shelves, and winning an event, no matter what, any size, is a really cool accomplishment. So it's just a nice reminder, and it's up to the players what they do with it then. So I don't know. When I started bringing trophies back, I only started with them maybe it was the beginning of COVID I got trophies, or we did a few at the end, but they're very well received. Like, people love a little memento. So having to give it back is a bit lame, I think.
I agree. Like, as a player, if you told me I had to give it back, I'd be like, oh, I lost it.
Well, didn't you destroy one of your trophies like during the recording?
Yeah, we had that a couple of years ago, right? Where my vintage trophy from Card Market, it fell down during the broadcast. I'm looking at it right now. It's like menacing over there on the shelf, it not only crashed down, it also like it smashed into my screen, and I had to buy a new computer screen.
I will say though, Magic trophies are cool. Like, you know, watching Worlds yesterday, it's a big trophy, but Warhammer ones are way freaking cooler. I've got one from a team event at Warhammer World, and it's just like a huge hand with a huge chainsaw. So
okay, yeah. that's next level. Like,
I'll take a picture to put in the show notes to show people what it is. It's like a big heavy fuck off thing with a big chainsaw. So I mean, what more do you want?
But when speaking of that, did you watch the finals?
Oh yeah.
I did. You know that there's one thing, like, not talking about like standard or whatever, like that's a completely different discussion. There's one thing Magic never gets right compared to like
the crowd. Right?
Yeah, the crowd, that's the one thing. That's actually the thing that flashed me the most when I went to my first GP, and I was literally watching the finals, and like all around, like judges were like putting up tables, and like everybody, like there was nobody. I expected there to be a huge crowd to be there. Okay, we don't have that. And that's actually part of what makes the actual trophy ceremony so awkward, right? You saw Jean-Emmanuel Deprat stand there and waiting and not lifting the trophy because he didn't like get a cue to like lift the trophy, and then he went up and like shake the
after he won, he was going to the stage, like going to the judges, like, shall I stay here? Shall I go over to my friends? What to do? Yeah, poor guy.
And that's not on him. That's not on him. That's like on the whole scenery, and like the I guess whoever constructed the post game apparently not existing procedure or whatever. It's so awkward, and like at this point you literally wait for it to be awkward because you already know it's going to be awkward.
I really think they should just like encourage people to be a crowd there watching as well. Like they did a Mengucci and LSV, and I think Riley Knight did like a watch party to the side, but like, no, have those people there to cheer him when he wins.
Oh, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. And also have the camera angle from behind him as he watches the crowd, and then like the confetti go up as he lifts the trophy and stuff.
I agree. Yeah.
All the standard stuff. But yeah.
Totally.
I mean, maybe there's reasons why they don't do it, but that's just like what I thought about.
No, it's serious. Yeah, no, seriously, like people should really go crazy. You know, like maybe you remember that meme where I think it's like the 4th place player who opens like the bottle of champagne and you know like and checks on metal, like that sort of stuff. You know, like real fucking like heavy metal. You know, like that.
I love that. I love that so much.
That'd be so cool. Like some I don't know, some just let a band play or whatever and have some speakers on or some background.
We'll get
bands.
my band to play while they lose.
Yeah, like a budget to do something crazy whenever like the winner gets the trophy or something. Like have a barbershop crew just walk around and saying, "You are the world champion." Ba, 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 ba.
Oh, dude, yeah, that and like the fastest blast speed. I don't know, like. Yeah, you can possibly do.
By the way, Kai, everybody who hasn't checked it out, we're gonna link it in the show notes. You literally did an a cappella version of our new podcast intro, right?
Yeah, I was not busy playing vintage like Callum, so I dedicated my time to some music, right? I don't do this very often though, but maybe I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast yet, but like back in school. Between 5th and 10th grade, I went to like a a school where like music and art was in the main focus, and everyone had to play at least one instrument. So I played the violin and a little bit of piano, and everyone had to sing and join the choir, for example. And like that's how I grew up, right? And also like you had to be Christian, which I was not. But my mom like check marked yes, my son is Christian anyway. So I was like in this Christian school, which was mainly focused on music and instruments, and and also like only boys. It was, man, like it's so hard to get into that school.
It's so hard. You literally have to put the check mark in there. Yes, I'm Christian.
Like my mom had to cheat. My mom had to cheat me in. And
like the more stories I hear about your mom, the more amazing she seems. Like when she like dyed her hair back in Japan or something. You told me about that.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe we're gonna have like an episode themed around your mom.
We can also have her as the guest, because she, like, I think like the reason why I'm such a competitive player is because of my mom. Like my mom spikes all the tabletop games, right? Like the Settler of Catan and like Monopoly and like all these like regular board games. Like she is the biggest spike I've ever seen. Like, if you go like, can I kind of undo this kind of thing? Like, no, like not happening, right?
Dude. So have you ever tried to get her into like TCGs or something?
She's just a little lazy to start
but she's
from
super
scratch.
spiky, but also okay. So she enjoys like being the big dog, and she doesn't want to start from the bottom again.
Exactly. But I don't know.
Have you ever taken her to Brettspielplatz in Berlin?
I have not, but she does her own board game evenings. I think like once a week, or I think like twice a month or something like that. Where she usually does like a cooking session first, and then they play like board games for about 5 or 6 hours straight. And all the people she invites are also quite spiky, I wanna say.
She's secretly like the Teddy KGB of like the underground board gaming world of Berlin. You know whom I'm talking about?
No.
You have not seen Rounders?
Not yet.
Dude, Kai, when we were in Italy, we were talking about so many movies like we have to watch, and if you have not seen Rounders, that's one of the biggest movies you're actually missing out on as a Magic player.
Oh shit! Is that the one you talked about?
No, we didn't talk about Rounders because I took it for granted that you had watched it.
No.
Yeah, okay, we'll put it on the list. People, seriously, like if you're on Discord, if you're on Twitter, if you're in chat, let us know how much Kai is actually missing out by not having watched Rounders as a Magic player, because it's kind of hard to say it's inspiring, because it also deals with like cheating in card games, so which that's not exactly
what you associate
inspiring.
Kai with. Yeah.
No, that's why it's always like hard to like convey the thing about it. It's more like about being super spiky in a game, and then one of your friends becomes a cheater, and then or forever was a cheater, and how do you deal with that? And
that's Julian.
And all the implications it has like on your private life. It's super cool. It's with Edward Norton, Matt Damon. Is it John Malkovich? No. Oh my god, I'm so bad. Who's playing Teddy KGB in?
I watched it years ago, but I watched it around the same time that Team America came out, so I had the Matt Damon thing in my head while I was watching it, so it didn't really work.
It is John Malkovich. Okay, I almost thought I messed it up, but yeah, here we go. So this is a great movie. But how did we get into that? Oh yeah, because your mom is actually running a secret underground board gaming ring. I see what's going on. Yeah. And with that, a big change. By the way, I played a Lorcana event on the weekend. My first Lorcana event ever. I went 3-1. I only lost to the local end boss in the final round, and yeah, it was fun. But
okay,
but we're not a Lorcana podcast, I guess.
But you picked up the game pretty quickly, no?
I played once at a friend's house, and then he was like, "Hey, let's go to a tournament." And I consciously didn't look up any like tier decks, any strategies, nothing, because otherwise I would get sucked really deeply into it. And you know how it works, right? You don't want that if you feel like you're already short on time.
It's too late already. It's too late already.
No. I literally, I still like noob nerded out on the stuff, because the guy who beat me, he had like the most insane deck I've ever seen, and I was like so excited for it. And I guess if I ever Googled it, I wouldn't be nearly as excited for it, because I would just be like, oh yeah, tier 1 deck, he killed me, whatever. But it felt like nobody really knew what they were doing, and I was just like playing, my Simba and a lot of Disney characters I didn't even know, but Simba is insane, by the way. And yeah, I easy 3-0, and then the final round, basically playing for first place, I got destroyed by Robin Hood, and that wasn't fun.
Classic Robin Hood. Yeah.
So yeah, guys, today we we'll talk about the very first Legacy GP ever, where it happened, why it happened, how it happened, what happened, like everything.
Gather around the fire, kids.
Exactly. But very quickly, one more thing. My Steve Jobs moment, I guess. No, not really. If you're a Patreon of ours, make sure that your shipping address on Patreon is updated, because there's a huge package going out. And I'm so happy that we finally managed to make this work. And another thing, don't try to update it on mobile. Apparently it doesn't work on mobile. Update it on the desktop client. And you're doing me a really big favor if you do it on the desktop client. And you can message me if you really can't get it to work. But if you properly update it on Patreon, it's gonna make life a lot easier. So yeah, stay tuned for that and make sure to update yours like very quickly. So guys, do you know when Legacy actually became a format without looking at the show notes?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Are you just faking it, or do you really not know?
No. Seriously. I don't like. Maybe we should start with like when did you guys start playing Legacy? Because I think we never talked about this, right?
I guess we can. That's a good intro.
I don't really know when I started playing Legacy when I was younger. So I remember like building the Tinker deck in Standard and Extended, and then I played like Madness and Standard. So I played around that era. I can't remember the exact years. And then I got into Extended.
1999, 2000.
Yeah, so I would have been like 10 around then. Yeah, but then I remember playing Extended with Exalted Angel and Scepterchan and Standstill and Decree of Justice and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think Legacy was made then. So I think I stopped playing before Legacy became a bigger thing. And then when I got back into Magic, I played Standard and other stuff for like 3 to 6 months. And then I started going to Legacy weeklies and got into it very quickly. So I remember getting properly back into Legacy when Innistrad came out.
Oh, that's a really big gap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Innistrad was like 2011.
Innistrad is at 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I missed a lot of the. I mean, I've obviously watched loads of old coverage and read about it and stuff, but like the countertop years before Miracles and stuff, and I missed
it was basically like the third coming of countertop at some point.
Yeah,
kind of crazy. It keeps honestly. I was gonna say it's eventually gonna come back, but no. I mean, this time it's hopefully dead. and
yeah. One comment though, I think like starting Legacy in the Innistrad block was probably the best timing for starting that format, because Innistrad Legacy was insanely competitive and fun.
It changed everything as well, right?
Oh, it changed everything, yeah. Like Delve of Secrets and Snapcaster. Oh, dude, like there were like so many staples. Like
Liliana the Veil,
Geist of Sand Trapped. What up?
Yeah, what happened to those cards?
we talk about all these staples, and then Kai always tries to smuggle a Geist of Sand Trapped. It's like
God,
one
you remember
of
like
cards.
Jeskai Blade with Geists? It was so bad.
Man, dude.
And then you stifle the trigger and you keep the angel.
Dude.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Like how about you, Julian? Because I think like among the three of us, like you have been in this game for like the longest time, I feel.
Yeah, I'm a baby here.
So the thing is, I started rather Magic in the 80s.
What?
You guys are not even disagreeing, okay?
No, I'm aware it started in 94.
I literally I talked to a guy in the Czech Republic, and he told me about this format this Magic he had invented, and then I stole it, and then in 1993 I sold it to Richard Garfield, and he made Magic. No, seriously,
like some regular Magic tricks, maybe.
yeah, dude. I've booked Airbnbs, and I told the guy that we're here for our Magic tournament, and the guy literally wanted to come and take pictures, and then when he arrived at the GP, he was like, "I thought they were gonna be Magic tricks." Like, no, this is like a card game. That was in Strasbourg 2013. But he had a good time anyway. No, so I started playing Magic in 1998, 1999, basically when Urza's block was around. But it took me until 2005 to play my first tournament. So my first tournament I played Extended Enchantress, and I played a bit of Extended. Like I played what's called Arena League. It was like when you, at least in Munich, it was like every Wednesday night we played at Funtainment, and just like 4 or 5 rounds of Extended. But I really wanted to play the proper Enchantress deck, because back in school when I started, somebody played an Enchantress deck, and I didn't know what a format was, but I knew what an Enchantress deck was. So I went on MTG Salvation, and I literally posted, hey, where can I play a Gothian Enchantress? And somebody, and I can probably dig up that post, it would be really cool. Somebody said, in Legacy. And life was so much easier back then, at least in my head. I literally, at that point, was like, okay, then I'm a Legacy player. And that's it.
That easy.
So,
easy.
Yeah, so it must have been around 2005, 2006. where I decided, okay, I'm a Legacy player. I built Enchantress. I ordered 4 Savannas for like 12 euros each. It's like, well, you think about it. And then I just started playing. I think I played my first tournament in 2006 in Passau, which is like the city I studied in. And yeah, from there, it went on.
That was a good year. That was a good year, by the way. That was like Time Spiral, Cold Snap, like Dissension, that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, Null Chamber. I played Null Chamber. That was my favorite card.
Damn. Okay.
Does anybody of you know what Null Chamber does?
Nope.
It's probably an artifact.
It's like if you order Meddling Mage from Wish or something. It's an enchantment. it might even be a world enchantment. Actually, let me look it up.
It's like you talked about Enchantress the whole time, and I came up with, it's probably an artifact.
Yeah, see, it's actually a world enchantment. See, I still remember some stuff. It's a world enchantment from Mirage. It's 3 colorless and a white. As Null Chamber enters the battlefield, you and an opponent each choose a card name other than a basic land card name, apparently. Spells with the chosen name can't be cast, and lands with the chosen names can't be played.
That's awesome.
That was my anti-combo attack.
Yeah, great. Play it on turn 3?
Yeah, it's also on the reserved list, by the way, apparently. It's like $1.82.
Buy your Null Chambers now.
Yeah, I love the card so much. I mean, that already tells you something about like what Legacy was like in 2006 when this was like...
I mean, you're saying you played it. Doesn't mean it was good.
Well, the thing is, like, I went to the source, like, I quickly discovered the source, and then there was always like, oh, the source is so much cooler than MTG Salvation, right? And
that's true.
Yeah, we had this thread, and there was one guy, oh my god, I'm trying to remember the name, Zach Tartel? I don't remember. There were a couple of guys who still play today, like Every Sparrow Guide, who is from, I think, the Pacific Northwest, but now lives in Belgium, I believe. Doxing somebody here, but I think that's public knowledge. Splatuda of the Ages, who still plays Legacy to this day and still plays Enchantress. This is 20 years later, still playing the same deck. And those were like my heroes. They posted their deck lists, and some of them held Null Chamber. And this is how I learned Legacy. And for many, many years, I was known as the Enchantress guy.
All right, if Spatula had it, I'll let you off, and it's probably good.
I know for some proper validation, I need to find a list where he actually had it. But he also played some crazy stuff. Like back then, when you think about it, like people still were like super competitive, but there was a lot less information. There were like this was before YouTube. Like YouTube became a thing in like 2006-07 or something. So it was kind of hard to see proper gameplay unless you made it yourself and you sat down and play a lot of matches. And you could really tell the difference between people who did have like a local community to play a lot of matches and the people who, well, didn't.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't back then, you just test with like a couple of friends and have a really inbred like thinking of how your deck works and an inbred meta, and it's just, you're going to be very biased even if you're trying your best not to be. Yeah, it was. You're right. It's like the lack of information is such a huge difference. It's just hard to even comprehend these days.
Yeah, I was also lucky, I guess, in the sense. But it depends on, like, I guess what you want out of the game. But I was lucky because in Munich, the scene was like pretty welcoming, but also very cutthroat. So, like, a lot of the people now that like in the later decades had some of the best Magic accomplishments, they played there. And I mean, Mark Vogt, right? Mark, by the way, if you're listening, he was one of my very first opponents. And yeah, you had have like multiple later GP winners and that kind of stuff in that community where we played like every weekend. And as you can imagine, I got destroyed hard, but I also learned so much because I guess it's cheesy, but I guess I just approach it with an open mind and not because when there's like no heuristics to go by and to like brain dead your way through, oh, why am I losing? I'm doing it right. At least I'm doing it right according to the guide, right? When it's said, like, you literally have to like learn it yourself, and
I did the same. I lost. I can't remember ever winning for like months when I first started playing Legacy. Yeah. Can you guys guess my first 2, maybe 3 Legacy decks I played? Again,
you probably played some super janky like
The Rock.
No, like even janky. I feel like maybe like a zombie infestation or whatever that crazy enchantment is called. Like that plus squee plus other bullshit is like. No,
so close-ish. So I'll give you a point. It's like not right, but close. My first one was Spanish Inquisition, but
okay, yeah,
but without a sideboard the first few times, and then like the first week I went without a sideboard. The next week I came with like 4 duresses as my whole sideboard.
That's all I got.
And then the following week I bought some Tomb of Urumais.
Oh, that's the one where you can like make a token, right?
Yeah,
you sackle your lands and make a 5/5.
Solid plan B. Oh my goodness.
I like the growth, right? You literally, you added what you thought you needed. You didn't like take something not without understanding it. You literally grew into your sideboard.
Right. So it's funny, but yeah, that makes sense. Like,
dude, this is so cool. Like, imagine if like a new kid shows up at your local tournament. He's like, nah, dude, I only 4 typo cards. That's all I need. That's all I need, bro.
I remember vividly where I was sitting in the room when I played my first thing, and I like go all in, and it just like my first thing gets forced, and I was like, okay, I need duress. And then
I mean, that's how you learn. That's how you learn literally anything.
Yeah. The second deck was Werewolf Stompy.
Okay. I mean, that's actually almost playable.
It was almost playable. Yeah.
I didn't expect that. Yeah.
God, I remember buying chalices in City of Traders for like £4 each or something.
Oh, dude, you monster.
Yeah. And then after that, I think I got lent Nick Fit for a while. And I remember like looping Kitchen Finks and stuff with recurring Nightmare and stuff.
Ooh, yeah. Now we're talking. Okay. Now we're talking.
So those three were my intro in. And then I remember like watching GP Seattle maybe, where it was John versus Esper Stoneblade in the finals. And I was like, yeah, I want to play the good decks. Those look really cool. So I actually just bought Stoneblade and John over some time. And then I played John for
the Kitchen Finks that were looking at you. What do you mean the good decks?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Actually, I do remember my very first one. So my very first Legacy tournament, I arrived too late, so I got a game loss in the very first round.
Nice.
Interestingly, and match loss actually, because I was that late. I was so dedicated, I had to like take a train for 3.5 hours to get there, and then I was like, I don't know, 30 minutes late, so I got a match loss. In the second round, I played against a guy on what was called Truffle Shuffle. I don't know if you guys remember that deck.
The name rings a bell, but I don't know.
So it was kind of hard to describe. Like it wasn't ever properly defined, but it was more like a chunk mid-range deck that played like Crows and Tusker, which like the one you can cycle to also like fetch a land from your deck.
Yeah. Commander stable.
Yeah, and at some point it played like 3 copies of Moments Piece, which for some decks like Sue was like an utter nightmare. And yeah, that I managed to beat that deck. Then I got destroyed by a survival deck. I got destroyed by a couple of more decks, and yeah, that was the tournament. So yeah, the very first Legacy match I ever played, I won. So that's something.
That's crazy. Like I literally took weeks, probably a month plus, to win a game.
Yeah, but you didn't play against Truffle Shuffle. I mean, the deck was already a meme back then.
Yeah, I think I was playing against like Rug Delvers and crap.
No, but Kai, what about you?
Yeah, like this is really interesting because I'm like, so we got Callum at 2011, and we got your start into the game in 2000. Let's say like 2006. You think you mentioned, and
my first like competitive tournament was 2005 and Legacy 2006. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm right in between. I'm like I started in Conflux. I remember that because
2009.
Yeah, that was 2009, early 2009, and Noble Hierarch came out, and I remember going to the local game store in Berlin. I was still a student back then, and people freaked out about Noble Hierarch, and like how Noble Hierarch broke all the Tarmogoyf stalls, right? Because the active player can always attack with Tarmogoyf, while the defending player cannot, can't properly block, right? Because of Exalted. And unless
you played Giant Growth.
I gotta just appreciate like the subtlety of that kind of interaction. It's such a cool, like, just it's barely even a synergy, but it's just how the format was shaped all around Tarmogoyf at the time. So
right,
cool.
It's really like a lot of those like really small things, right, that come together.
Absolutely.
I think I saw a lot of like natural orders from Progenitors, like Jace the Mind Sculptor Jace the Mind Sculptor was not out there yet. But there was Progenitors also came out in Conflux, so we saw like natural order for Progenitors, like Grim Lava Monsters. Vendilion Click was like the new hotness, I think, which came out like I think like a year ago, maybe at this point.
Was this like just before New
2007,
Horizons?
yeah. Morning Tide, actually.
Yeah.
Was this like just before New Horizons, or like Bant Stoneblade was a thing?
Like New Horizons was kind of around that time. It was like 2009, 2010.
Right. I gotta say though, for a Legacy beginner, the whole Alara block was not really that appealing because it was like crazy color combinations, right? Like all the decks were at least like tricolors. I feel like, you know, it was the introduction of like Junt, like the name Junt and other like tricolor combinations.
Yeah, it was also the heyday of Bant. Bant has never been that good in Legacy ever again.
Oh, totally. Yeah, like Rock Swarm Monk and stuff.
Yeah, see, that's my boy.
And the thing is, like, for Legacy Beginner, that was not the best environment because you had to invest so much money for dual lands, right? Because you couldn't really go for like a monocolored deck, for example, all that well, because all the cool new cards were like tricolor almost.
It took like one or two more years for Death in Texas to properly like hit the scene. I think people were already experimenting with it back then, but it wasn't like established at all.
Yeah. And my very first Legacy deck, which was not very good, was a Madness deck, which kind of looks like the extended Madness deck with like Mild Mongrel, Aquamoeba, Basking Rootwaller. Vengevine was not out there yet, so I had to play Arrogant Worm, and I think the card that like tied the whole deck together was Umezawa's GT, because that card was bonkers. It came out like a year or two ago, I think, at this point, and people went crazy on that card. And it kind of made my Wild Mongrels like, acceptable versus like Tarmogoyfs and other things. And
Chit had actually been out for quite a while at that point. I think like 4 or 5 years. But
I was actually playing back then, so I think my break was shorter than what I was thinking. I was playing just not Legacy back then, because I remember going to the Betrayers pre-release and remember having to say to all my friends, you need to take the red Kamis in draft so you can splash red if you play against a Jitte, because it's like the only removal for artifacts at common, stuff like that.
When you look at deck lists back then, we didn't have Stoneforge Mystic yet, or at least it came out in Worldbreak, I believe, which was like 2009-10 or something like that.
But you saw lots of decks just playing 4 in the sideboard as Jitte removal.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And they would play like 3 copies in the main, 3 copies of the same equipment, because otherwise you wouldn't get it, especially if you're not playing blue. So it was that good and that dominant. So people were just like, 3 or 4 Jitte, that's my life. A lot of like these mid-range decks, right? But like full of 2-drops. Like even stuff like Nantuku Shade and that kind of stuff. That's at that point wasn't a thing anymore. That was more like 2005, 6, 7-ish. But these in broad terms, I guess fish decks were a lot more popular back then.
Right. But maybe we can wrap this up and basically say that the first Legacy GP, like none of us played Legacy back then.
No,
that's true. I played Magic. I played competitive Magic, but for the very first GP in Europe, for example, that would have been Lille in 2005. That's the only Legacy GP in Europe I ever missed. But we are actually talking about the Legacy GP in Philadelphia, which was even earlier. That was the very first one. It had 495 players. And interestingly, it was the largest American GP in a very long time at just 495 players. 2005 have been like, that was a different time apparently.
Yeah, that's a lot of players.
I mean, for back then, yeah. But now these days, like at 4 Seasons, you almost get that many, right? Kind of crazy when you think about it. But also, it was a new format, so kind of. Actually, before we jump into that, we started this out by me asking you guys when you think Legacy was created. So maybe I'll share that info with the listeners, because that's actually quite interesting. Legacy, like a lot of you know, was called 1.5 back then. Like we had tier 1. Tier? Type. We had type. We had type 1. We had type 1.5. We had type 1.x. And we had type 2. Like, Wizards was horrible at marketing the formats, not gonna lie. Like, what is that? Hey, I'm a type 2 gamer. Like, okay, sure. So, type 1 was what would later become Vintage. Type 1.5 was what would later become Legacy. And 1.x was extended, like very creative. Type 2 was standard. And for a long time, starting in 1997 until 2004, Legacy, or 1.5, was tied to the Vintage restricted list. So any card that was restricted in Vintage was banned in Legacy for 7 years. This was like an awkward dynamic, because sometimes you needed stuff banned in Legacy, and that vice versa meant that it needed to be restricted in Vintage, even though it was like completely unrelated. Like, you would sometimes look at the reserved list for Vintage, at the restricted list for Vintage, and be like, why is this card on there? Oh, okay, because we need to ban it in Legacy. So in 2004, Wizards was like, okay, let's do this properly, and let's establish Legacy independently from Vintage. So there was a column by Aaron Forsyth, which was called like Latest Developments, if I remember correctly. And here's the cool part. Not only did they establish Legacy as its own format, their own ban list, but they also let the community vote on what the format should be called. Like, can you imagine if Wizards had done that these days, what Pioneer should be called? Like, no way that would ever happen, right?
No.
Like people would submit like, I don't know, format McFormity face or something, like all that kind of shit. Dude, but I love it. And I have the list here. I consciously didn't put it in the show notes because I want to read it out to you. From bottom to top, these were the suggestions that didn't make it. So Enduring, like 1.6% of the vote, forget about it. Mosaic, Timeless, Comprehensive, Ageless, Throwback. All of these were like 5% or less. Heritage, 10%. Renaissance, 16%. And now we come to the top 2. We got Legacy, which won. And in second place, the format was almost by a margin of just about 250 votes, would have almost been called traditional.
I'm glad we went with Legacy.
Yeah, that's way cooler and like shorter too.
Yeah, we got 25.5% for Legacy, 23.3% for traditional.
I personally have a favorite here. Like Renaissance also sounds pretty classy. I don't know if it's cool, but it sounds classy at least.
I think they kind of mentioned that they put it up for the vote because they had also mentioned a couple of other names that they basically deleted. It's kind of awkward because there's also like a format. There's also a set that's called Renaissance, but I think that doesn't really matter all that much anymore, I guess. Renaissance I kind of like, right? It's like the Renaissance of Vintage. Like it gets reborn into a new format with like new rules. I wouldn't have hated that. But come on, Comprehensive. Hey, what are you playing? I'm playing Comprehensive.
Thank God it's not that.
Yeah.
I think Mosaic is a really cool sounding word. But
yeah, Mosaic is cool. Mosaic, I wouldn't hate that.
Maybe it doesn't fit with it, but...
Yeah.
That's
Ageless.
Cool story. I had no idea about that.
So here are a couple of the ones that they didn't put up for vote. So they were like, we want the format to be taken seriously, and that's why they didn't put overextended and hyper-extended up for the vote. Hyper-extended, the new format coming to you. They also didn't put up Amaranthine. Callum, do you know what that means?
Say the word again, sorry.
Amaranthine.
No, I don't actually.
Okay, that's good, because they didn't put it up for a vote because they said nobody knows what it means. They also didn't put up confined and antiquated because they were like, oh, that is like a negative connotation. We want like a positive connotation. They also kicked out vintage restricted because they figured it didn't make sense to call a format without a restricted list vintage restricted. And then a couple more like open, classic, eternal, and composite. Those are names that they used for other stuff, so they didn't want that. So yeah, that's how we ended up on November 12th, 2004, Legacy was reborn. Oh man, now I like Renaissance so much.
Oh god. We're going to get like a new Legacy format called Renaissance now.
At some point, yeah. But that's too complicated a word these days. I just noticed, by the way, the World Championships, they do that American Super Bowl thing, right? Where they put like the Latin letters, Latin numbers up there, like XX and stuff. Yeah, okay. I don't know. It's a little tacky. I don't know. It's just... Okay, here we go. So, yeah, they put up a new format. They actually wanted it to be taken seriously. They were kind of pushing it. And the very next year, they gave it a GP. Actually, only a couple months after, when you think about it. They gave it a GP in Philadelphia. Almost 500 players showed up. And what we're doing today is we're going to look back at that GP, because while the coverage isn't online on Wizards' website anymore, we still have some internet sorcery to dig it up from like I don't know. But basically, we used Wayback Machine, right? That's the only way to, or Web Archive or whatever they call it. And you can still see the coverage. And holy shit, guys. Like, Kai, you already had a look at this, right? I put this together actually quite a while ago. And you were like, dude, what is going on there?
Yeah, dude, like this, like the decks and the coverage, that's hilarious. like looking back from now, I think the quality of coverage has changed so much over the years that it's really like old school at this point, you know, like how pictures were taken back in the day with like potato cameras and like how deck lists looked like.
Some of these pictures from the PT Philly top 8 are so good.
They are insane. They're like worse than someone taking like the worst selfie. Serious.
Yeah. I want to say like the style of coverage is actually a little bit more timeless to me. Like when I looked at that stuff, I enjoyed a lot more than the vanilla coverage, because in the coverage that we had back then and like for a couple of years after, they literally would like quote the conversations that the players had at the table and stuff, and you really only get that when you have proper written coverage. Because these days everything is like video, and it's different.
Yeah, like when did they stop this? Because I can definitely remember these type of like written out coverage articles even from like 2013, 14, I think at least. And even 15, like when I made them top 8 at GP Kyoto, I think my feature match was also like written out, which I thought was really cool because I talked a lot of shit during the round.
You did? You back then you were able to do like Japanese shit talking, because you told me it took you a while to pick it up.
Like for example, like the majority of the game coverage between the Miracle guy and me in the semifinals was like me handing off a chewing gum to my opponent, and I'm like, dude, like that's literally half of the article. And like, okay, well, like, was there nothing interesting about the game or what? Like,
yeah, you know, honestly, when you look back at especially combo decks, when they did written coverage on combo decks, and then if you watched it or if you talked to the player, a lot of players were like, the written coverage had like nothing to do with what actually happened in the game, and that's very specific for combo decks, I feel like, because it can be over like rather quickly.
Oh yeah.
There's some great stuff. I kind of just skimming it as we go along, and there's a bit where between the can I spoil the finals?
Well, yeah, sure, go ahead.
And in the finals, it's Chris Bakula with a cursed scroll against goblins, and it says cursed scroll punctuated his turn. John used wasteland on Chris's goblin and played another pile driver. Cursed scroll one of the pile drivers naming duress. Chris looked up at the judge and spelled, he forgot to attack one turn, right? John had been hoping that Chris would notice his slip up and grinned sheepishly. I've been playing too good, I had to make a mistake, right? I mean, you miss that in today's coverage so much, like the cheeky chat between players.
You gotta read out the last part as well. That's great.
And he goes, "It's cool now. If I lose, I can complain. I lost to some guy who just didn't attack with his pile driver." Yeah,
it gets a lot more character to that coverage. That's great.
Yeah, I agree.
So before we jump into it, it was kind of hard to really understand what the metagame was like, because, like I said, right, none of us played back then. We only, like, I started a year later, so I didn't really know what Legacy was like from firsthand. Like, I remember what people were talking about, like the Flame Vault combo deck and all that kind of stuff, and some of the early decks that existed. So I dug deep, and there's a cool quote by Chris Bakula, who said right before the GP, I don't think that the top 8 of this tournament will look anything like the Legacy top 8s that you can find online. I couldn't even find any looking back. I think the Grand Prix will likely make the previous results of the format look silly. And that's kind of cool, right? Because he's even saying, like, this format is so underdeveloped, like, we literally have no idea what's really good in the format. So that's why this GP Philadelphia is really like the birth of Legacy proper, in a way.
Yeah, like the beta version, kind of, yeah.
Like moving to, like, I don't know what comes, like, they don't call it, like, gamma version. Like, moving into, like, the proper Legacy. Everything before was the beta version, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but I found something, at least. There was a German website where they basically surveyed a lot of Legacy players, all around Germany at least, about which decks are most dominant or most popular in their local metagames. They got something close to, I think, 60 replies, and according to that survey at least, the most popular deck by far was Goblins at 56%, followed by Landstill at 54%, which I can agree. Like, when I started playing, Landstill was everywhere as well as Goblins. Then 23% Rock, 21% Angry Trade Wind Survival. I guess we'll get to that in a moment for those who don't know what that is. 19% Scepter Chant. Oh god, I hate that deck so much. Seriously. Oh god, I hate that deck. Like, especially if you're a newbie, right? Like, you come to a tournament and somebody plays Scepter Chant, you've never seen that. You're like, this is the greatest bullshit I can ever imagine.
That was my deck of the old times.
Yeah, I bet it was. Then we got 90% as well Grow or Madness. I guess they kind of looped it in. That's basically like I guess Quirion Dryad and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Then 9% Red-Green Survival Advantage, which is basically like a mid-range endgame survival deck. And 9% Solidarity, the predecessor to like what we call High Tide these days, the deck which was able to win the game while the opponent had lethal damage on this deck. Such a beautiful deck.
Is this out of like 200% of the votes, by the way?
No, I guess people were allowed to submit multiple answers because it was like a question about what are the most popular decks, I guess, in your local metagame.
Got it.
So that's why it adds up to like, I guess, a couple 100%, which is like a really weird way to display this.
Yeah.
But yeah, Legacy articles in 2005. So yeah, Goblins by far basically the tier 1 deck. Landstill, also another deck that was always popular, but to me, at least when I started a year later, I always felt like Landstill, it's good, but it's like the noob crusher deck. It's the deck that did well against inexperienced and medium players, but rarely ever won something. That's why, maybe that's where like my obsession with like anti-control decks started. Like I was like looked down a little bit on Landstill.
Julian was hurt in the past. Now it all makes sense.
It actually does.
Yeah. Also, like looking at Goblins, I think when they started Legacy, like Darksteel was really like one of the newer sets, right? Like Darksteel came out like 2004, and with Darksteel we got Ether Vial, and Ether Vial was like the card for tribal decks. So I can definitely see how like this card pushed Goblins like like way up to like proper like tier 1 territory maybe.
Yeah, Goblin deck also was like a lot better back then. That's just like such an important. We called it the Goblin Lecky test. I think it's kind of funny because it doesn't really exist anymore, and then I can't even put my finger down where it stopped. But that was Legacy. Legacy was the Goblin Lecky test. Is your deck somewhat reliably able to stop a turn 1 Goblin Lecky? If not, then it's literally unplayable. That's how it kind of worked back then. I mean, if you're a combo deck, I guess you can kill on the second turn, and then it doesn't matter all that much. But yeah, the Goblin Lecky test was the number one thing for a Legacy deck to pass.
Yeah, I think nowadays we call it like Ragavan test, but that's modern.
That's modern, yeah. Also, by the way, another thing that blew my mind, because Landstill, as I mentioned, was pretty dominant initially when I started playing, at least locally. But then, like I said, like it rarely ever like won the big things. I remember like Matthias Frauenschläger in 2013 won Bazaar of Moxon with it, but that's or 12. But that doesn't really count. I guess that was too late. But I remember at one point I was so desperate because I kept losing to Landstill because I was bad. And I asked the player, what is one of the best decks you can play against Landstill? And he said, Solidarity. And it made me go like, what the fuck? I don't understand anything about this magic thing. Because Solidarity is a combo deck. And Landstill plays 4 Force of Will. Like, how can a combo deck ever be good against a deck with 4 Force of Will?
I remember, just like a side note, I remember being lent Ant one time at Legacy, and I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest deck I've ever seen. I was going crazy about how cool it was. And then I was playing against someone that had Force of Will in their deck, and then the person who lent it to me was watching to me at the side, and he was like, what are you doing, Callum? Why don't you just cast your spells? I was like, oh, I'm playing around Force of Will. Like, if I play it, it gets countered. And he was like, yes, but like if you don't, it doesn't get countered. They always have it. So like, I was like, oh, I see. So I just wait more. And like, no, you go for it. It's like, oh, okay. And then they didn't have it and they died. But
dude, I'm loving this. What are you doing? And you're like very confidently, I'm playing around Force of Will, dude.
So I should never cast a spell.
I'm playing around the removal by never playing a creature.
Exactly. So I just
but seriously, this is like how you learned, right? This is
absolutely.
How you.
Yeah. To be young and naive again.
Oh, I'm loving this so much. I showed the article I wrote. I wrote an article about Enchantress in 2008, and I showed it to Kai the other day when we were in Spain. Like, Kai couldn't stop himself from like laughing his ass off because not only was it like pretty horrible, like by today's standards, it also like, yeah, I guess. I explained how Gaia's Touch was actually good against control decks, and if you don't know what Gaia's Touch does, I literally beg you to look it up, and that will teach you something about like how I was thinking back then. Gaia's Touch is not good against anything.
All right, you heard it here first.
It's yeah. So yeah, that was at least in Germany. It's what the metagame was looking like, and then we head into the GP. And as Chris said, it's probably going to be very different. So here are some highlights from the day one coverage. Where do we start here? So
just
first of all,
they're all great.
Okay, so let's take turns. So the very first deck that they mention, because they want to paint a picture of the metagame. They don't have anywhere near as much data as we have these days with like MTG Media and stuff. So they literally have to paint the picture manually by describing the most interesting decks they find. So one of the first decks they mention is Affinity with Berserk. And to quote the coverage, He took the first game when he berserked a cranial plating equipped ornithopter for the win.
Hell, goddamn, yes.
This is actually pretty sweet.
This is insane, dude.
I mean, I'm done. I don't have, nothing compares to that.
Imagine you're sitting there, you're passing the turn against ornithopter, and the next turn it kills you for 20 or something.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, there was no infect creatures back then, so you had to do what you had to do, yeah.
There was like 8-land Stompy where people tried Berserk, but in Affinity, plating, Berserk, GG. There we go. So yeah, that was one of the decks. It didn't make top 8. What else do you guys see? What do you like here the most?
I like the intuition for ill-gotten gains, I think, part. So like intuition for 3 ill-gotten gains. It's a loop thrice with 2 rituals into intuition for tendrils.
So
that is so cool. Like it's like ill-gotten gains for everyone who doesn't know. Like it's like the Past in Flames before Past in Flames, but you could also like recoup LEDs if you want to. But having like multiples of them with like rituals and the tendrils, like that's like such a cool looking combo too, because the ill-gotten gains and tendrils also have like the same mana cost. You know, it looks really on brand, I feel. But I think the most critical thing about this is that there is a plan B, right? Versus Control, they go grinding station, and this kind of opened my eyes because this technique got later developed again. Maybe like almost 10 years ago, maybe 6-7 years ago.
But you mean later, right?
Yeah, like people like Jonathan Alexander, for example, who invented the same technique in Ad Nauseam Tendrils, where they against Control, like they basically just made land drops and kept their rituals in hand until they double tendrils their opponent from out of hand. And this is like up to date. It's such a beautiful line of winning against a Control opponent who's sitting on, like, you know, let's say a Force of Will, for example, or 2.
The card nobody can ever beat.
Yeah, and you just double tendrils them. That's just peak magic to me.
It's exciting, right? That's basically the quote by Nassim Ketita they mention here. Yeah, he's saying, against the Control decks, I play the game very differently. I build up a handful of ritual cards and just cast them all at once in double tendrils. I beat a couple of Lancer players that way yesterday. It's kind of funny. These days, I noticed that as well, that some people on Twitter like sell you, oh my god, I just discovered this tech, and like you don't want to be like an ass about it and be like, hey, actually this is like, if anything, rediscovered it. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that has been around in the past in Legacy, and technique that was like forgotten and then gets rediscovered, and people feel like, oh, I found the Holy Grail. Like, I mean, you kind of did, because you found a new application for it in a new metagame.
Okay, but hear me out. What if we take Brainstorm, Daze, Wasteland, and Fetchlands and Force of Will, and we put a card from the new set that costs 2 mana in that?
Yeah, that sounds like a way to play Magic. I brewed a new deck at Starbucks.
Dude, don't go, slow down, don't go crazy.
I mean, this Lightning Bolt card's pretty good. Like, we're going places. Sorry. Anyway.
What's your favorite decks that we got listed here, Callum?
I love the idea of Counter Sliver, but like, so it says Counter Sliver / Sexy Rector. So with Crystalline Sliver plus Worship combo, it's so dumb.
It's so dumb, right?
So like, but Crystalline Sliver, so if anyone doesn't know, is a 2-mana 2/2 Sliver that gives all your slivers Shroud, so including itself. And then Worship is a 3 and a white enchantment where as long as you control a creature, your life total can't go below 0, below 1 even.
Through
below
damage.
0 because, yeah, through damage. So Tendrils gets around it. So I don't know though, like, if you get this on board, I bet a lot of the format just can't beat it. So I guess some of the standstill decks have a Wrath of God. You can Tendrils through it, and some decks had like Innocent Blood, I suppose. But I'm struggling to think of anything after that. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you think about like goblins, goblins would have like no way around this, at least in the first game.
Yeah.
Like, but also like this type of deck building is really old school to me, because like nowadays I think like we got most of the cards and like really good answers. We like almost any Legacy deck can kind of deal with almost any situation, right? But having like such a, it's not a prison type strategy, but like a, you know, I cannot lose type of strategy is really like really old. It immediately rings a bell, like things like Rest in Peace plus the energy field,
Energy
for example.
field, yeah,
like
yeah.
that's like another one of those like I guess I can't lose kind of situations. And like looking at the deck list from like way back in the day, like people just didn't have the tools to like destroy enchantments, for example, sometimes because you were like mono red, for example, or I don't know, like
that was the thing, right? In Goblins, people would splash white literally just to play, but sometimes I guess even worship, but most importantly to play disenchant.
Big
Straight up disenchant, because otherwise there were like situations that they literally couldn't win the game.
Okay,
Yeah, but you're right. Like these days, a lot of decks, also the proliferation of like mana fixing, color fixing, and everything makes it so much easier to have all the kind of stuff like available. And these decks don't really work as well anymore. I still love that it's called like Sexy Rector, and I think they even called it Sexy Rector on the coverage, which like these days wouldn't fly, I guess, for Wizards. By the way, that deck was played by Gabriel Nassif.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
You know what I love? There's a couple more decks. There's like, I don't know, Enchantress with Words of Wind. That's something I played that I absolutely adored. There's Grower Talk with like Psycho Talk and stuff. Apparently there's like a red deck wins with Kurdape splashing black for just Dark Blast. Just like, this is what I need. I need Dark Blast.
Like as if Naya decks didn't have enough removal already.
Yeah, but I want Dark Blast. But the coolest deck is Flame Vault with Stasis, played by Ray Tottich, and it was actually signed by Richard Shea, right?
Yeah.
Like vintage legend Rich Shea.
Yeah.
Kind of retired from competitive Magic these days, but like back then he apparently built the deck. And for those who don't know, I already mentioned the Flame Vault deck. So the actual Flame Vault deck is you play Time Vault, if you can afford it, and you play Flame Fusilade, which is a 3 mana, so it's basically 3 colorless and a red. I think it's a sorcery. All your permanents gain until end of turn, tap, deal 1 damage to anything. So since at the time you could like, I guess
the combo is pretty obvious then, you're right?
The combo is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of is, right? You can untap Flame Vault to skip your next turn, so you like constantly skip your next turn and shoot your opponent for infinite damage. But what Ray played in that deck is also Stasis, and that's kind of like devious, right? You get to a point where you have like Stasis out, and your opponent is currently in a state, but they cannot really win. So you use Flame Vault to constantly skip all your remaining turns while your opponent is locked under Stasis, so they eventually deck out. And there must be something else, right? Because otherwise they could just like play lands and kill you or something.
It's worth saying Time Vault has changed since this.
Yeah, one of our like previous episodes like covers the history of Time Vault.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, it's a weird one.
It has changed. Like, I think there's no card that has gone through so many power level erratas than Time Vault.
Mm-hmm.
that was another deck. So that's just like a best of from the first day of coverage. And by the way, they mentioned, I put this in here because I want to mention this. Some deck had the best anti-Goblin Lecky tech, and I keep going back to this because passing the Goblin Lecky tech was just like the best thing ever. And I remember this card that they used. It's called Bandage, because even I back then was like, this is total crap. Why would anybody ever play this? Like when I was a noob. It's from Stronghold, and if you do know what Bandage does, props to you. It's an instant for 1 white. Prevent 1 damage to any creature or player. Draw a card.
Amazing.
This is hilarious.
This is basically a time walk against
Just put this under a Isochron Scepter and you can keep blanking the lackey.
Awesome.
And draw a card every time.
Oh, God.
That's actually, if you put this under something, you could actually the draw a card part. But this is like, okay, if we order Swords to Plowshares from Wish, we get Bandage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the perfect tech.
Oh man, I don't know.
Goblin Lecky, your opponent thinks they're gonna get there. They even have like creature removal, haha, but Bandage.
Dude, like the removal was already pretty good, right? Like the removal was so insane, even in like even the super early set like Alpha Beta, and then they come up with like Bandage. It's just like so hilarious to me. Like what happened? Like why is this necessary? Oh my goodness.
I mean, you want to cycle it, right? Swords to Plowshares doesn't cycle.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. It's a misunderstood.
Okay. Guys, so do we want to take a look at actually, because they played 8 rounds on the first day, do you want to know what the 3 8-0s were?
Yeah, hit us.
Callum, actually, you want to give us like a rundown?
Yeah, so we have Chris Pakula, who is absolutely infamous, or famous actually, I should say, in Magic now with his Dead Guy Brew. which is like black-white mid-range. Everyone will know the guy who plays Legacy now. We have Jeff Robuski on Goblins and Philipp Stolze. Is that how you say it, German? With
if it's German, it would be Stolze.
Stolze. And then you've been 3-color Angel Stompy. So this is quite a wild one.
It's pretty wild. Like, it also finding the list was pretty hard because they didn't post it. But he was like, I found another list of his that he played, and I'm pretty sure that's the one.
Some of these numbers are just like, I gotta run through it. So it's 1 Isamaru, 4 Exalted Angel, 4 Silver Knight. So that's a good shout to Goblins being big. 4 Meddling Mage, 2 Dark Confident, 4 Knight of the Holy Nimbus, which is
as you do.
Yeah. 4 Brainstorm, 3 Jitte, 4 Duress, 4 Source of Plowshares. So look, that's a great mix of spells. That's very respectable. And we're about to get to the next bit. 2 Serum Visions, 2 Sword of Fire and Ice, 2 Chrome Mox. I mean...
Also the mana base, like 2 Ancient Tombs along with like Tundra, Scrubland, all that kind of stuff.
Oh my god, yeah. 4 Tundra, 4 Scrubland, no Underground Sea, 2 Basic Plains, 2 Ancient Tomb, 7 fetches, all white, and a Flagstones of Tricare.
Yeah, because you got 2 Armageddon in the sideboard, so we play the 1 Flagstones in the main.
Of course. 3 Tividar's Crusade sideboard, you hateful person.
Yeah, that destroys all goblins, by the way.
Yeah. 1 white Sorrel Goblins, 3 Jotun Grunt, which was like...
Oh, man.
That's like an old anti-graveyard tech. It was like 1 white for a 4/4. Cumulative upkeep, you put like 2 cards from player's graveyard in the bottom of their library. So you do 2, then 4, then...
That was like the scavenging ooze for poor people.
Hell yeah. There's also 2 Okiba Gang Shinobi. Hell yeah. That's the... I don't actually know how much it costs, but it's 3 and a black to ninjutsu. And
I think it's like 5, if you actually let me look it up.
And then it's like a 3/2 that or 3/1, whenever it does damage to an opponent, they discard 2 cards from their hand. So
nice.
That's your anti-combo tech right there.
Yeah, ninjutsu for 4 and to cast it is 5.
Yeah, and then 2 perish to play against the Nimbleworn Gooses and the Werebears and stuff. So yeah, pretty sick deck.
Can we talk about the elephant in the room that is Knight of the Holy Nimbus?
Oh man, please! I opened this card in a booster pack back then during Time Spiral. I was not a competitive player back then, but I remember this card very well because it just didn't die. Like I played with this card against all my friends back in like elementary school or middle school, and like they just couldn't beat this card. It's a 2-mana 2/2 white knight with flanking. And it has this crazy part of text where it says, if Knight of the Holy Nimbus would be destroyed, regenerated.
Done. That's it.
Period.
Can't kill it.
Right. You cannot kill this dude. And like of course, everyone in my class didn't play any removal, right? So it was only combat, and I would like jump like for like decades with this, and it just, it was just there.
But it has one more ability, I guess.
Oh yeah, it has one more. Dude, it's like almost like the pure power creep in like Time Spiral. Holy smokes, it has like so much text. For 2 mana, Knight of the Holy Nimbus can't be regenerated this turn. Only your opponents may activate this ability. Well, I didn't read out this ability to my opponents. Like they didn't really know that they could do this.
Of course, I mean that's how Kai won all these like kitty tournaments back then. When he was down. Okay.
But it plays very nicely with Armageddon, right? Like can't do it if you don't have the mana, I guess.
Oh, I see. Do we have like Wastelands? No, we don't. Okay. Dude, I just can't get over that there's 2 Ancient Tombs and we play like 4 Meddling Mage, 4 Silver Knights.
I was like the Knight is like double white. Double white.
But you can turn 2 Exalted Angel morph, turn 3 unmorph.
I mean, technically you can like turn 1 Exalted Angel in the stack with Chrome Mox.
Yeah. That is a power play.
The more we look at this deck, because Ancient Tomb and Dark Confidence also deal a lot of damage to you, but there are 3 copies of Umizawa Jitte, and Ancient Tomb and Jitte go very well together, and like it's pretty hard to grasp, but I think that the deck does a really good job of fixing its own problems. I think.
I mean, he went 9-0. He was the only 9-0 after round 9, so there's something to it. Actually, he didn't make it into the top 8 though, right? I'm looking at the top 8 right now. Okay, so he must have fallen down hard from there. He was 9-0 and then still didn't make top 8 too. That's something.
At a 400 player event, right?
Almost 500. Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah, it happens. We actually have 25% of goblins in day 2, by the way.
Let's go, boys.
We don't see numbers like this in Legacy anymore these days, do we?
No. I guess it was like the level 1 just best-ish deck, and it's always been popular as well.
Yeah, when you think about it, like the way goblins looked back then, I mean, obviously it looks different now, but it doesn't look that crazy different.
It's not that crazy different at all. No, which is amazing.
I mean, the core, like with like matrons and ringleaders and even Lecky, like War Chief doesn't see as much play anymore, even though I love it. But that's also like because like we got, I guess, Chieftain and other stuff. But at the core, also Wilds. I
think War Chief still is like 2-ish often.
Yeah. I played against. Oh god, I played against so many goblins the other day.
Awesome.
On Metagame, and apparently it's like popular again.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the first day. For the second day, they played it out all the way to the top 8. And guys, should we go? Should we take a look at what actually made top 8? And I guess these are the final standings after the top 8. So maybe you start in 8th place.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Let me look it up. Where I got it somewhere here. Dude, I have too many tabs. I want to be professional and I open everything up before we start the broadcast, and then I
Oh man.
Okay, in 8th place we got Lamb Fam, and for some of you this might ring a bell because Lamb Fam actually got top 8 at the GP New Jersey in 2014.
Heck yeah.
With his sudden shocks, blue-red standstill, baby. That was so cool.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, blue-red standstill with 3 sudden shock losing to Infect. Which, like, sudden shock,
crazy.
Infect, come on, how do you do it? I mean you can, I guess.
Also, like, I think Lamb Fam is one of the creators of the initial, like, Canadian Threshold deck, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Sounds
the one
familiar.
with Tarmogoyf and Nimble Mongoose and Fire Ice and Russian River.
He's one of those 2 Canadian guys who did that. I'm pretty sure. I think so too. So yeah, he got 8th place. He was playing blue, white, green, so Barnt Threshold.
With the wildest mana base, if you're so used to like the classic 18 land thing.
Oh my god, this is amazing. So yeah, before I take a look at the mana base, the big discussion back then, I remember that from like people even like talking about it later, is it's Ruck or it's Barnt. Like people were like, oh, you should play, I don't know, you should play Barnt because you get Mystic Enforcer and Meddling Mage. And people were like, no, you should play Red because you get Fletchling Dragon and most importantly, you get Lightning Bolt. So even in this top 8, we got a mix of both. So for Lamb Fam, well, we got your typical setup, right? We have 18 lands, which to this day is like a staple in Delver decks. But then we got 7 fetch lands.
Well, no wasteland as well. 18 lands but no wasteland.
18 lands with no wasteland. Actually, that's more than. Yeah, you're right. Then we got 4 tropical, 3 tundra, which is like kind of normal. But then we got 4 basic lands, 1 forest, 1 plains, 2 islands. Like that's sacred, right? People, for decades, people have been trying to hammer at home that you don't play basic lands in your 3 tricolor Delver deck.
I mean, to me, this deck is not being a tempo deck. It's still a mid-range deck. Like, it's got 4 dazes, but there's no wastelands. It's got 4 accumulated knowledge as well, 4 sorts of plowshares, which is kind of, I know you can play that in Delver decks, but like it's kind of against what you're doing as well. So I really see this as a mid-range deck, but it's just leaning on kind of the power of Nimble Mongoose rather than the tempo aspect of it that we're used to.
It's true. Yeah, actually, the more I look at it, like you mentioned, right, 3 predicts, 2 counter spells, 4 accumulated knowledge.
Yeah, there's a lot of card advantage in this deck.
Yeah, like this deck can pretty much like just go grind.
Yeah.
Also on the sideboard, we got 2 copies of Mist. What did we actually do with Misdirection? Was it just like additional copies of Force of Will? I'm trying
to Turak?
Him is a good one. Oh yeah, him is a good one. I was wondering like whether you do in the mirror you try to like misdirect swords, but that seems horrible. Like
misdirect swords to your Nimble Mongoose.
Also, like it's probably not gonna work anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 Spheres of Law, which is like the one where all creatures gain protection. I don't know, whenever 2 damage.
You prevent 2 damage.
Okay,
from
let me
red
actually look at it. It's an enchantment, 3 colorless and a white. If a red source would deal damage to you, prevent 2 of that damage.
Yeah, pretty insane against goblins.
Very much
and
so.
burn, I guess. Grim Lavamances and crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Against Piledriver still gets there, but that's really the only one.
Yeah. And then he's got like 2 Hydro Blasts as well, and 2 Blue Elemental Blasts. So, I mean, he is ready for goblins.
As you had to do back then.
Because the main deck probably gets run over by goblins.
Yeah. Also, actually, what is even good in the main deck against goblins? Like,
you honestly probably just have to like play this, just stay alive, trade off the Werebears and Mongoose if you can, And then the Mystic Enforcer just flies over
Mystic
the top.
Enforcer needs to get there.
Yeah, the 2-off. Yeah.
That's also probably like something really smart that you need to name a threatening mage. The problem though is like, if I remember correctly, goblins played Gem-Palm Incinerator, which can be cycled to kill any creature, basically.
You probably, I would guess, you named Matron or Ringleader probably in most of the time.
But then they still have Vile. It hurts so bad.
Commander. Yeah. A Vile is just completely insane against this deck.
Oh yeah, dude, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But this deck for like, you know, for the first Legacy event, this deck looks like a proper deck, you know. Like the sideboard looks almost like a proper sideboard, like you would expect, right? With like Blue Elemental Blast, a Disenchant, like Misdirect. Okay, Misdirection is a little odd, but Naturalize and Pithy Needle, like all these cards we also see like today in sideboards, and like additional creatures such as like Meddling Mage. I can definitely see that. Meddling Mage is more common in sideboard these days than in main decks. But there were just not really good threats back then. So you had to play what was given, basically.
You know what I remember from back then is, I think there was a GP Lil a couple months later. People played Peak in the main deck, so they had an easier time figuring out what they want to name with Meddling Mage.
Oh, so cool.
When I looked at those deck lists back then, I thought, oh, that's why Meddling Mage is there, right? It's like you get Gitaxian Probe from Wish, you Peak, and then you Meddling Mage, whatever they have.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Also, when you play a format that like where no one has a clue what they're doing, like you better want to peek, you know.
Peek and see your bandages.
That's how you explain it when you go to the top 8 of the biggest GP in a while. Like, oh yeah, I just want to see what they got.
What if you like? Because it might have happened like a lot of the times where when you Meddling Mage something that's not in their not in your opponent's deck, maybe.
Peak name bandage. Yeah.
Get that? I wonder whether like Bandage randomly won a game where like somebody was like attacking with like, well, I guess not a Tarmogoyf, but let's say a Fletchling Dragon, and then you bandage for the exact 1 damage that you needed to survive and swing back for the win.
I do totally. But like, you know, like I mentioned this with like the proper sideboard because I want to quickly transition to the what is it, the 6th place in this top 8 who did exactly the opposite. Ben Goodman, I'm sorry Ben, but I'm gonna shit talk your sideboard for just really quickly because this gentleman has 3 copies of Nimble Mongoose
in the sideboard.
In the sideboard.
It's for like standstill, I guess.
What is happening, dude? Like, why they have 3 Nimble Mongoose? Like, why not 4?
I'm just gonna point out one thing. It might be an error because I see 3 Pithing Needle main deck. Maybe that's meant to be a switch around. Oh,
dude. Okay, well, Ben, I think you're good.
I'm guessing. Look it up on the Wizards website then.
Oh my goodness.
This is on the web archive, and it probably is just Wizards reporting it wrong from 2005.
Please, because
it would make sense.
It would be hilarious if Nimble Mongoose was
so on the Wizards official website. It says that the Nimble Mongoose is in the sidebar, but yeah, it looks awkward for sure.
And there's 3 Pithing Needle main deck, which doesn't make sense.
Dude, he's probably like never hearing the end of this, like all around the world. Everybody like, oh, by the way, I'm Ben. Oh, Ben Goodman, the guy from the Mongoose.
The Mongoose dude.
Like, he probably like changed his name by now or something.
But who knows? Yeah, maybe Ben really hated Ethervile. Like you never know, right? Like, you know.
I mean,
it's possible. Like Ethervile,
maybe this
like
is real.
The more I look at this metagame and like the dominance of goblins, that the more I think that it's not crazy to have main deck hate for Ethervile.
Dude, the thing is, okay, so here it is. I remembered that at GP Lil, people had main deck Etherviles in Threshold. And I just looked it up and it's actually true. Helmut Sommersberger won GP Lil in 2005. He literally played 2 copies of Pithing Needle in main deck in Barnes Threshold.
All right, Kai, flip a coin. You can shit talk it on a heads. You know what? You can flip a coin. Heads, Ben's deck gets shit talked. Tails, we think it's an error.
Oh, like you like I don't need to flip a coin. I already know that this is a shit deck. So,
dude, it has 3 Sleight of Hand and 4 Serum Visions.
And 1 copy of Disrupting Show. Honestly, I don't even remember what it properly. Like, it counters something, you have to pitch something of the same mana cost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not awkward at all.
Okay.
If these people could see, like, I don't know, Force of Negation these days, they would be like, oh my god, you got the future technology.
I mean, can't counter turn 1 lucky.
Oh yeah, see, that's another big thing.
Yeah,
we keep going back to this. This is so important. But yeah, this deck also like a lot more mid-rangey with like 4 predicts. I mean, it doesn't have accumulated knowledge, but it also does, of course, have them 3 copies of Mystic Enforcer and 3 copies of T-Water's Crusade. You know, sideboarding back then was like a lot more straightforward. You goblins, okay, I T-Water's Crusade.
Yeah, 3 Armageddon as well.
4 copies of Hydroblast, which is like how many ways do we have to answer turn 1 Lecky? We got like 4 Hydroblast, we got 4 Swords to Plowshares, we got 4 Force of Will.
3 Nimble Mongoose to sideboard in?
Yeah, which we probably do. We got like, if we are on the draw, we can have like 2 Engineered Explosives and like all of our 2-drops. Like, yeah, you really had to fight tooth and nail to not get done in by Lecky.
I really gotta stop this Goblin Lecky. I gotta board in this Nimble Mongoose.
You board in the Nimble Mongoose, and then you like open a hand of like your basic planes, 2 of your basic islands, and then...
But it's so beautiful, right? Because you got your Goblin Mongoose, so even if they have Champ Helmet Incinerator, they cannot get rid of the Mongoose.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the Goblin Lecky gets like stonewalled.
I think like we should probably make a poll between like Nimble Mongoose and Bandage. I think
we need to find out if this main deck is right, though. I can be convinced that you're right. I can be convinced.
But see, I'm like 99% sure because it's. If you look at a little later on, that was a thing, and Helmut Sammersberger won with 2 Pithing Needles in the main deck.
Fair enough.
The Mongoose in the sideboard is awkward, but Needles in the main deck is very much a thing.
I guess Vile just single-handedly destroys this deck, doesn't it?
Yeah. Also, maybe it's not as crazy if you think about like how people build decks. Maybe maybe Ben had his 75 figured out. He just wanted to see like where like which part of the deck he only wants in game number 1, right? So it's like he already knew about the 3 Nimble Mongoose and the 3 Pithing Needle, but he just split basically just reversed the order.
I see. you don't need to like make it look good. It's just you don't need to feel guilty about this.
I don't know.
But yeah. Okay, so there's another threshold deck, and this time it's Ruck or Canadian Threshold. It's not really what we would later go on to call Canadian Threshold, but it's still Ruck. Well, what do we call it? Like Ruck Grow back then? Ruck Threshold, I guess. Played by Pat McGregor. Isn't that like some mixed martial arts fighter or something? I'm pretty sure there's like Patrick McGregor. Isn't that... He either played like Anakin in the Star Wars movies or he's like a mixed martial arts fighter.
Oh, yeah. I know who you mean.
Which one though?
No, the fighter. The Irish guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And apparently he got top 8 in GP Philadelphia 2005 playing Ruck Threshold. Yeah. And the core is kind of similar. Honestly, this deck just like looks straight up so much better than the other Threshold decks.
Mana base is super clean with 4 drops, 4 volcanics, 8 fetch lands, 2 islands. Super clean.
No wasteland again though.
Yeah, and also no forests or whatever. And also like this deck has almost only 4 offs, which is beautiful. Like it has a 2-off Fledgling Dragon, but everything else is a 4-off. Nimble Mongoose, Werebear, Serum Visions, Mental Note. Really excited about this card because of Threshold. Lightning Bolt, Force of Will, 4-off Fire and Ice, 4 days, 4 Counter Spell, and 4 Brainstorm. So clean.
Yeah, love it. Really
That's
cool.
That's a really, really cool deck, yeah.
This almost looks like a stock list, almost. Like, like there's no fanciness going on. Like the most linear, straightforward deck building possible in the main deck, and the sideboard is one of my favorites among all the top 8 competitors because it has one of my absolute favorite artifacts of all time, which is a Winter Orb.
Almost script. No, okay.
Do you like the number of sideboard cards as well?
Oh yeah, dude. Okay, so it's the sideboard. And the sideboard, unfortunately, there is no 4-off in the sideboard, so we have we break the brand a little bit here. But we have 3 Winter Orbs, which I really like against control. We have 2 Tormod Script, 2 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Pyroclasm, interesting tech versus goblins. You can do it in rock colors too. 3 Pyroblast and 3 Naturalize. And now I realize that this guy plays 5 Pyroblast effects and not a single blue blast. Which is quite odd, right? Given that goblins was so dominant.
Yeah, the thing is though, like you don't really beat goblins by countering their spells or destroying their permanents, right?
I see. Maybe Winter Orb was good. I don't know.
It's actually kind of funny when you think about it, like Winter Orb could actually be good against goblins. I never thought about this, but
like if you counter or or naturalize the Ether Vial and you land Winter Orb, like that's how you beat tribal decks mostly.
I guess the idea is that you either win in the air with Fledgling Dragon, which like the threshold grows to a 4/4, I believe, or is it a 5/5? Actually, I can just mouse over to figure it out again. Dude, I should remember this. It grows to a 5/5, yeah, 5/5 flyer. And then you got like Mimble Mongoose and Werber on the ground trying to hold back the fort, and eventually you find like, I don't know, Pyroclasm, and then you just kill goblins in like 1 or 2 swings, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's probably the game plan. Also, like, you're not crazy over-equipped for Lecky. I guess you got Forces on the draw. You also got Fire Eyes on the play. You got Daze. You got Nimble Mongoose, Werebear. I think you're actually okay against Lecky. I think some of these other decks, they really went out of their way to make sure not to be hit by Lecky. But I think this strikes a pretty good balance. I don't know. At the time, I remember I thought I liked Band strategies a lot more, but I quickly grew to like Rock Delver the most out of all. But I call it Delver, right? You get the idea. Like tempo, threshold, what you want to call it. Oh, oops, no, I clicked the dragon. Shouldn't have done that. Tells me it's not allowed in Modern. Oh, too bad. Would have been too good.
Legend Dragon, though. What a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah. The red Mystic Enforcer.
Mm-hmm.
So we got 5th place, Paul Serenisi. Is that that last name? Sigorini is the one who with Dave Garrett made Team America. So this is a different Paul.
Now this is by far the coolest deck in the top 8.
It is, right?
It's so cool.
Okay, yeah, take it away.
Oh my god! So it's named Salvage Game, and so just to like ease you in, it's got 2 Auric Salvages and 4 Lion's Eye Diamonds and a Pirate Spellbomb. So that, if anyone doesn't know, I guess you're playing Legacy, so you know Salvages and LED is infinite mana. Pirate Spellbomb, you then rebuy to pirate them out. But it gets wild. So the only other creature is Gamekeeper. Gamekeeper is when it dies, you may exile it if you do reveal cards from top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into the battlefield and put all of the cards revealed this way into your graveyard. And then it has a bunch of like kind of ways to sacrifice. It has like Innocent Bloods and Cabal Therapies, so you can sacrifice Gamekeepers. So they're essentially more copies of Salvages because, Gamekeeper, if you hit another Gamekeeper, you can, get into Salvages. And it puts all the cards milled into your graveyard, so you're probably milling into the Lion's Eye Diamonds and maybe the Pirate Spellbomb. So I'm working out the combo on the fly here, so if something's wrong.
Oh, you've never seen this one? This used to be like really big.
Okay, well no, I'm working it out. And then
it was called Golden Grahams as like cereal's nickname.
Awesome name.
Those tech names.
I'm just looking through it, and talking about it, and smiling. I'm just so cool. Then you got 4 Duress, 4 Cabal Therapy, 4 Innocent Blood, 4 Living Wish. So got like you got Kagamaru, First to Suffer, Killed and Dead. Another game.
Killed and Dead, dude. Seriously, look at that card. Like, Kai didn't believe me that this was in the top 8 of a Legacy GP.
But yeah,
we gotta read this one out. It's a skeleton, 1 black. When Kyoto and Dead comes into play, sacrifice a creature. It's a 3/1, and it has regeneration for a black, but that doesn't matter all that much.
Genius! You get to Living Wish for a sack outlet to sack
exactly
your
right.
Amazing.
So bad.
Then you've got 2 Night's Whispers, just as a generic good card. 4 Dark Rituals. 4 Tainted Pact. This one surprised me. Tainted Pact, if anyone doesn't know, is 1 black for an instant. You reveal the top card of your library. Remove the top card of your library from the game. Sorry. You may put that card into your hand unless it has the same name as another card removed this way. Repeat this process until you put a card into your hand, or you remove 2 cards with the same name, whichever comes first. So there's a lot of like 4-ofs in this deck. So I don't really understand this one, but I guess it's just the best kind of tutor you have access to. You have, I guess, you have a Corrosion Reclamation, which is shuffles cards back into your library with flashback. So I guess if you mill yourself by mistake or something.
It's by mistake as it happens, right?
And then you got LEDs, Chromatic Spheres, which can draw your deck if you make infinite mana. And then you have the 1 pirate as the kill. And
actually,
then,
is there a way where we go like where we use Tainted Pact to exile our library? That doesn't really do anything, right?
Problem is, like, the moment you hit the pirate Spellbomb.
You don't even get to exile your library, you're right.
Yeah, you have to keep the pirate because you can't win.
Well, you can win with Kagamaru First to Suffer, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, you can also win with Darksea Colossus.
Yeah, I guess you make infinite mana.
Yeah, you can wish for Darksea Colossus.
You make infinite mana, and then with a sphere, you draw into it, and then you get a Darksea Colossus from your sideboard.
But you have 2 Darksea Colossus in sideboard, right?
Yeah, because in case the first is not enough, I guess. So
this is such
the
wild
sideboard
deck,
is
seriously.
you got a salvage and a gamekeeper as extra things to find from your deck. Then you have a Viridian Zealot as your like artifact enchantment removal. 2 Darksteel Colossus because the first is not always enough. You got a Trinket Mage to go and find combo pieces. You got a Tubby Orangutan, 6 monkeys to kill, I guess, other artifacts. You got the Gamekeeper, as I said. You got a City of Brass if you need a mana. Ray of Revelation. No HQ to this actually. It's just a raw dogging a Ray of Revelation.
But okay, I'm slowly recognizing something. But
you mill into the Ray with the Gamekeeper.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Okay.
Because of the Gamekeeper, right?
Yeah, exactly. Killjoy Undead, as we said, is the sack outlet, and then Kegamaru First to Suffer as a board wipe to Living Wish for. I mean, it's crazy deck, isn't it? And sorry, for Tsunami. How could I forget that one? Tsunami is 3 in the green, all islands in play are destroyed. Just screw you.
Easy, straightforward. These sideboards are a lot more straightforward. Like, I need removal I can Living Wish for. Okay, let me get this Kagamaru First to Suffer 5 mana creature. That's how we do it. But yeah, you know what you could actually do? You could take out like the Salvagers and some part of the combo, and you just bring in 2 Darksteel Colossus, and then you Gamekeeper into Darksteel Colossus against a non-Swords to Plowshares deck.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder if, like, that's also like why there's 2, so I don't know, maybe.
Oh, just in case if you draw the first one, maybe.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
there's no brainstorm.
I think the 2. I bet you're bang on, and it didn't occur to me at all.
It could be it. I'm not sure.
How can goblins beat a Darksteel Colossus?
No, this is really smart, right? Because like if you looked at the previous sideboards, like we saw like Tormod scripts and things, right? And people are definitely gonna bring in those like heavy sideboard hitters. So this is almost like a sort of like a show and tell deck post sideboard.
we will do the evolution of show and tell one day. Maybe that's another episode.
But again, like you better not cast this innocent blood afterwards. Like it's
dude, there's so much stuff going on in this. This is by the way, I mentioned Golden Grams. Golden Grams is similar, but it wasn't that tacked out. It was straight up just a Gamekeeper Salvagers combo. But this is a little bit more next level. Chromatic Spheres in there. I guess that allows you to draw your deck as well. I guess Pirate Spellbomb does the same. This is something.
Well, Pirate Spellbomb just kills, but the spheres then like draw into the deck into your Spellbomb.
But the Spellbomb also can draw the deck, right? If you have infinite mana.
But you might as well just kill them. But you can draw a deck at the same time.
So much better.
We saw the line. But you can draw a deck and then kill them. That's fair.
I mean, that's a Marcos Ewald line, right? First, I'm going to draw my deck.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
By the way, Innocent Blood, one of the coolest, cleanest answers to turn 1 Goblin Lackey in the format.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just like nothing they can really do about that.
Unless they go Chrome Mox 2 lackeys. Nothing they could do.
Hashtag 2 lackeys.
Okay,
2 lackeys, one attack or something. Okay.
And then at the end, you got like 19 lands, just fetches and basics and jewels.
Yeah.
What a cool deck. Like,
yeah.
As I said, I hadn't seen it before, so I was working out as I went along, so I'm probably missing some nuances, but so cool.
A little surprised to not see any like sack lands.
Phyrexian Tower,
yeah, the Phyrexian Tower, right? Like, cause that card is like one of the best sack outlets, and
I almost did the really stupid thing where like I went through. You got salvages, you got gamekeepers, so obviously you'll have some Phyrexian Towers. Then I looked quickly, I was like, oh, there's not actually. Okay.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, you have Innocent Blood and for Chemotherapy, so that's like 8 sack outlets.
Sure, yeah. But instead of like Phyrexian Tower, we have like Kildron Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
In the sideboard. It's like
maybe that's actually the better card to wish for, honestly, Phyrexian Tower.
What's also another little layered thing is because the gamekeepers, technically you've got 3 gamekeepers main deck and 2 salvages. Technically you could hit like the 2 other gamekeepers before the salvages. But but then you mill the Cabal Therapies, which is really nice. So you can still miss. There is a tiny fail rate, but I didn't clock that at first as well. So you usually will just get salvages.
It's so funny you mentioned that because it literally took me over a decade to figure out that, like, because I was literally wondering, like, years ago, what if you Gamekeeper into Gamekeeper? It's like, oh, yeah, there's Cable Therapies in the yard as well, most likely. It's like, okay.
But you know, the top 2 cards of your library are just Gamekeepers. So
like Gamekeeper.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So now we move on to the semifinals. So in the semifinals, Pasquale Ruggiero dropped out playing Red-White Rifter. And Rifter, very much an old school deck. Based on what's it called again? Astro Slide.
Wait,
why is there no Astro Slide?
Oh, okay.
Whoa! Wait, there's no Astro Slide.
I guess it's just like leaning on Lightning Rift. And
that makes so much more sense. Yeah. Astral Slide was like, okay, yeah, see, Astral Slide is what I did in Extended, and I was like, bad. But this is straight up just Rifter with Lightning Rift. Where is it? It's the one where you can cycle whenever you cycle, you can pay one colorless, and if you do, you get to shock somebody, right? Or something. Okay, you know what? I'm actually going to read it out.
yeah, you shock something.
So this is, at the core, this is a red-white control deck. Lightning Rift is an enchantment, one colorless and a red. Whenever a player cycles a card, you may play a colorless. If you do, deal 2 damage to target creature or player. So this is actually especially interesting because if you played the mirror, both players could activate their Lightning Rift if somebody cycled a card. So that might be a lot more awkward. Then at the core, where do we start here? Like, this is so different from anything anybody ever played, right? Like, red-white control hasn't been a thing in Legacy in like 20 years or something. We got 4 copies of Eternal Dragon, very much a staple. Cycled to find your plateaus, I guess, and also triggered the Lightning Rift. Abeyance, another card. Like, this is Orm's Chant before Orm's Chant was a thing, right? It's an instant, a colorless, and a white, and until end of turn, target player can't cast instant or sorcery spells, and that player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. Draw a card. I mean, draw a card is why it's like 2 mana instead of 1 mana, I guess, compared to Orm's Chant. The thing is, like, printed on the card, it literally just says, or activated, or abilities requiring an activation cost. So I remember, and I don't know if that was ever the proper text for it, I remember there was a time where people played this to literally time walk, because the opponent couldn't tap their lands for mana, right? And I don't think that was ever how it worked, but I remember when I started, people played it like that. And I'm not sure that's ever how it worked, because that seems a little bit broken. Instant speed time walk, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, they can still attack you, I guess. But yeah, that's a way to I guess, protect your combo, time walk your opponent in some ways, especially against combo, right? Against combo, you can stop them somewhat dead in the tracks. Then you got Akroma's Vengeance, which is a 6 mana sorcery, destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, and it has cycling for 3. You got Decree of Justice, which I guess if you ever played it, it was 2 colorless and 2 white, and then XX, create X white angel creature tokens with flying. Nobody ever did that. But you could also cycle it for 2 colorless and a white, and when you did, you could pay X and create X 1/1 soldier creature tokens. So that was a way to get around, for example, Landstill. Landstill played it itself. Here we play 3 copies of it. Okay. We play more cycle spells. We play Renewed Faith, which you can cast for 6 life or cycle for 2 life. Slice and Dice, that's a really cool one. You could cycle it for colorless and a red, and it would deal 1 damage to each creature, or you can cast it for 6 and deal 4 damage to each creature.
I played this as anti Young Pyromancer tech in Legacy.
Oh, you did really?
During the like Dig Through Time or Treasure Cruise days.
Really nice.
Yeah.
People were really desperate back then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. We also got 2 copies of Pyroclasm, 2 copies of Disenchant, of course, 4 copies of Swords to Plowshares, 2 main deck copies of Rune of Protection Red. Hell yeah.
Just screw you, goblins / your cycles.
That's such a different. That's like Legacy was a very different beast back then.
Yeah.
We also got 3 copies of Humility. I guess it makes a lot of sense when you have like Decree of Justice. Like you can become also, the king of humility.
Also, like Humility plus Slice and Dice is just bonkers, right?
Ooh,
like everyone is every creature is a 1/1 without any abilities. Like, and Slice and Dice is literally Wrath of God for 3 mana at instant speed, and you draw a card. That's pretty good.
It's just like, bro,
that's pretty good. That's
reminds me
good.
of Terminus. Yeah, also you got 8 cycle lands, 4 Forgotten Cave, 4 Secluded Steppe. You play 26 lands altogether, which like, I mean, yeah, you have 8 cycle lands, but that's a lot. That's a lot. But the game plan is pretty straightforward, right? You get Lightning Rift down, and then you just kill everything, and eventually you just end up winning because Decree of Justice is just like better than everything.
Yeah.
Also, you got some kind of inevitability with like Lightning Dragon, especially in the first game, and they probably don't attack your yard. So, I mean, I can't really get excited for this kind of deck because it's just like red-white control, and like whoever gets excited for red-white control, but
I think it's cool.
It's cool. It's cool.
It's pretty destructive, but it also it has almost nothing against combo decks except those 3 copies of Abeyance.
And the 4th copy in the sideboard, yeah.
And the 4th copy in the sideboard. But yeah, this deck is pretty much like, dude, fuck all creatures. Really.
Yeah.
Like, all of them.
There's 3 Rule of Law in the sideboard.
I mean, you gotta do something, right? But Yeah. There's even like two more pyroclasms in the sideboard. Like what? What the hell's going on?
I mean,
there's also Pulse of the Fields in the sideboard.
Looking at the metagame numbers and the top 8, like combo wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I talk about when. I mean, I sound like the old man yelling at the cloud, but the legacy I grew up in, combo was a lot less pronounced than it is today. I think these days when you go to a big tournament, you have to have combo on your mind, like on your radar. And back then, most combo decks were like, They were like, okay, but not nearly as dominant as they are. Like, I can't even say combo decks are dominant in Legacy right now, right? I mean, I guess they have been at times. But back then, really, combo was more like, oh yeah, I guess that also exists. But a lot of them were not nearly as good relative to the rest of the format as they are, or as they have been for like 10, 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I always blame Griselbrand. For me, like, there's combo before Griselbrand and there's combo after Griselbrand. And I guess Past in Flames also like was a huge... I mean, that's all the same year, right? 2011.
Yeah, dude.
Innistrad block fucked everything up.
Yeah.
Callum came into the format and they were like, okay, let's step up the game for combo
Let's
here.
go. Yeah.
So, yeah, as I mentioned, like, Pulse of the Fields in the sideboard, that card has been so frustrating to a lot of, like, new players because I didn't know how to beat that card. It's an instant, you gain 4 life, then if an opponent has more life, then you return Pulse of the Field to its owner's hand. And yeah,
unbeatable.
It's kind of funny because when you think about it, back then we even had mana burn, so aggro decks could mana burn themselves to try to get around it.
That's cool.
But then you get lightning rifted out of the game at some point. Ooh, so it all works together. Cool. So, third place, we got Tom Smart, very smartly playing. By the way, Tom Smart got top 32 at Eternal Week in 2015, my notes say here. So, hey, he stuck around. Very smart player, picked Goblins for this tournament, made it all the way to the semifinals. And I guess this is our first proper look at a Goblins deck back then, and it pretty much looks like how you would expect it to look like, right?
Yeah.
There's also some new inclusion to this deck, which I'm super excited about. Like the main one is Kiki-Jiki, and Kiki-Jiki came out in the very same year as this Grand Prix. Like Kiki-Jiki also came out in 2005, and like
it was Champions of Kamigawa, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Betrayers of Kamigawa, I think.
Yeah.
And
it's the Torii Gate, right? The Torii Gate's Champions, I thought.
The Gate is.
You're right. It's Champions. Betrayers is the star.
The star.
Yeah.
It's like a shuriken. It's
yes,
like like the thing you ninjas throw. Anyway, but like with limited testings, I'm super impressed to see Kiki-Jiki already in a deck like this, right? I mean, maybe it's pretty obvious to copy like Siegegang Commanders and other things like Matrians and things, but if you only see one copy of Siegegang Commander in exchange, you get this Kiki-Jiki, which can kind of like copy anything you already have, which I think is a pretty good move. Mm-hmm. Really.
Yeah. Like I just had a quick look at Jonathan Soms in first. Like he didn't have it either. So yeah, it's pretty heads up to just it's a 5 mana card, and I know you have Lackey to kind of cheat it in sometimes, but to put an expensive card like that in your deck, kind of just after coming out, is always a bit risky and stuff. But I mean, now we know. Obviously, after years of it around, we know how powerful the card is.
Right. But it's so cool to see two Goblins decks in the top 8, and they're both so different. Like this, for example, by Tom Smart, also has 3 copies of Swords of Plowshares in the main deck already, which might be a game changer in the mirror, maybe. Because you got outs there to their Goblin lackeys and not vice versa.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was pretty common back then for Goblins to splash either white or red. Splash red. Either white or green. Sometimes people splashed green for Tin Street Hooligan because it allowed you to destroy Chitter. But can you... Okay, that's actually pretty hard to see if you haven't played back then. What is the problem with Tin Street Hooligan destroying Chitter? There's a big problem.
In this deck?
In Goblins in general. And it's also present in... this deck, yes, it's also present. If this deck was to play Tin Street Hooligan, what is the problem if you want to destroy Chitter with it? If you had like green mana.
Well, there's no Tiger. Okay, if you had green mana.
Yeah.
Is it a May or must effect?
Because you can't vial it in. Is that the answer?
Let me actually look it up again because I need to reread the text on Tin Street Hooligan.
maybe there's no problem.
Here it is. Okay, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to read it out to people listening and playing along at home. Tin Street Hooligan. A colorless and a red Goblin Rogue 2/1. When Tin Street Hooligan comes into play, if green was spent to play Tin Street Hooligan, destroy target artifact. So that's a way to destroy Chitter. But what is the problem? What is the big problem, and why did this tech eventually not stick and people played white instead? Because you think that's pretty cool, right? But there's a problem. And it's pretty cool, because when I learned about it, I was like, oh, damn, you're right.
I'm trying to work it out. I mean, it's not easy, like, you have to play a Tiger, right?
No, like, let's say you have the mana available, yeah.
Okay,
and you cast it, and your opponent has a GTA online, has a GTA in play, and there's potentially the risk of failing, basically.
There are situations where you have this card and all the mana to play it, and they have Chitter, and you literally can't kill Chitter with it.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounded like an anime character.
That kind of blows my mind.
Okay, here's the problem. You play the card Goblin War Chief. All of a sudden, Tin Street Hooligan only costs you a single red. You literally can't play a green mana to cast it.
That is so cute, though. That is such a cute answer.
That would have taken me a long time.
But this is really like Goblin-esque, I think, because like goblins are like they kind of do, like they kind of mess around with each other, and you know.
Yeah, I just noticed that because I thought like, oh, that's so cool. Like we can play it like on the same color, and like the goblin, we can tutor for it, and then like all the goblin players at my local meta were like, yeah, but have you seen War Chief? Like doesn't play along very well, and I was like, I don't get it. Like, oh yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. Very nice.
So, yeah, the White Splash was pretty common back then. I was on the sideboard for Armageddon and stuff, so you would basically like still win the game with like wilds and the bot presence you had.
Tom doesn't only play 3 Armageddons, he plays 3 Armageddons and 1 Ravages of War.
Yeah, as you do.
I bet that was very expensive back then as well.
It was literally the most expensive card in Legacy.
Yeah.
It was around 125 euros back then, at least in Europe. In Germany.
Splitting up Pyroblast is like for pussies, really. Like splitting up your Armageddons is like for real, man.
Just so you don't get Meddling Maged. It should be like 2 Ravages. Come on, Tom.
I remember seeing the card back then, and somebody played it in Munich, and I was like, "Whoa, this person must be very expensive, very, very rich."
Yeah.
I've got a question for you guys. There is also 3 Pyrotechnics in the sideboard. Do you think that's meant to be Pyrokinesis?
Probably wrong. I'm pretty sure that's Pyrokinesis. Like we're not paying 5 mana to deal 4 damage.
Yeah. Okay. Just checking. I mean, Pyrotechnics goes face.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he talked to Ben Goodman before the tournament. Like, okay, well, like, we both have like 3 slots on our sideboard, and we really want to play like the dumbest card.
I will not take this Ben Goodman slander.
I was gonna say like Ben Goodman has more GP top 8s than Callum and I combined.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, and then your usual stuff like Pithing Needle, one of the biggest sideboard cards in like the format at that time. Disenchants, and yeah, this is pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah.
This is what you call a goblin deck. Also, 3 copies of Wasteland, I guess. And no copies of Shade and Port. Oh yeah, I guess if we Splash, that wasn't as popular back then. Also only 22 lands. I thought goblins played 24 lands back then, but I could be wrong.
Both of these top 8s have 22.
Yeah. Maybe at my time, people played like when I came into it like a year or 2 later. Yeah, a year or 2 later. Also, maybe just, I don't remember. Okay, so let's say 22 lands. Only 3 copies of Wasteland, but yeah, you already mentioned, right, how the Threshold decks, they didn't really play Wasteland. I mean, it makes a lot more sense when you think about that they were more mid-rangey. They didn't try to temper you out with their, like, Mystic Enforcer, which came on, like, I don't know, turn 7 or something.
It's funny because it's a very similar list to what people play in pre-modern. I've played it, and for me, Port has been like 10 times better than Wasteland. So it's just interesting to see here.
Yeah, especially when people play like so many basic lands, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just like so much easier to cut them off a color or something, and then they will never cast their Knight of the Holy Nimbus or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Pokey Pokey. There's Knight of the Holy Pokey Pokey where you have to make a dance or something, and then something happens.
Yeah, that's in the top 8 as well, right?
Close, like probably ninth place.
Probably in the sideboard, yeah.
Missed on breakers. So yeah, now we arrive at the finals here, and the finals was pretty cool. The finals was Chris Picula on his signature deck, that guy Ale, against Jonathan Sonner on Goblins. Do we want to go through like what the coverage actually like has in store for us, guys?
Yeah, we could touch on like the best bits at least, because I think we should link it in the show notes, because it's well worth to like have a look yourself and look at the pictures, and it's so endearing. I love it.
So they start off with the first game. Game 1. Chris shrugged and kept his opening hand. Duress. There are only 4 targets in my deck. What am I supposed to do? Not Duress.
I love it. It's just so good. I mean, a few lines later, he then uses Duress to curse scroll and hit it. So, there's a reason. But
yeah. Loving it.
But yeah.
So yeah, you got to read all of this. A lot of like favorite cards of basically the history of Legacy. Like John starts with Mock Fanatic, then Tukushake comes down Chris's side of the board. Piledriver comes along. This is just like Jared's verdict, discarding Siege Gang and Piledriver, Curse Scroll, taking out something.
Chris tried Jared's verdict. You're getting some good ones, and nabbed Siege Gang and another Piledriver. Let's go.
Oh, and then the part about like forgetting to attack, and he was like, "Oh, I lost somebody who forgot to attack in the finals of GP."
And then later he was like, "Come on, Sorna," chanted Antonio De Rosa from somewhere behind the crowded rail. Chris made a pouty face and hollered back, "He already lost," even though it was the opposite of true. I love it,
dude. That coverage is great. So definitely check it out. Should we take a look at the deck lists maybe here?
Yeah.
So most people, they've heard of that guy, Ale, right? That was this kind of cool homebrew that Chris brought to the tournament. 23 lands, 4 scrublands, 4 wastelands, 10 swamps, 4 Bloodstained Mire, 1 Tainted Field, which I think taps for like black and no colorless. And when you control a swamp, it taps for either white or it's a scrubland if you control a swamp. Otherwise, it's a what's it called? Waste.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. But I guess I'm surprised there's not just a couple more like polluted deltas here. But hey, Chris is a legend, not me.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
So for creatures, we got 4 Dark Confidence, 4 Hypnotic Spectre. Dude, gotta love it. Like making top 8 of a GP with Hypnotic Spectre, that's always a special award. 3 copies of Nantuko Shade.
Yeah,
and that's the creature suite.
This is like Be Still My Beating Heart. Such a cool creature suite.
It is, right?
It's so cool. I'm going to cry. It's so cool.
We got 4 copies of Dark Ritual to especially get that really cool turn 1 hippie start, I guess. 4 copies of Duress, which only hits, I guess, Etherby against goblins. 2 copies of Jared's Verdict. 4 copies of Hymn to Torach. 4 copies of Sinkhole. 4 copies of Vindicate. Like, we are really going hard on the lands here. 2 copies of Curse Scroll, which I guess gives you some kind of inevitability, kinda. And then 2 main deck copies of Engineered Plague. Let's go.
Yeah.
Awesome. In the sideboard, we got 2 copies of Dark Blast. Another thing to like play around Lecky forever. I guess 2 more copies of Engineered Plague. 2 copies of Phyrexian Negator. I would guess that's against like combo or something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Kind of, or like control even. I don't know. Like
maybe like control that only has Source of Plowshares.
Something like that. You probably wouldn't bring it in against Drifter.
Yeah.
3 copies of Sideboard All-Star Pithing Needle. You just can't get rid of it. 2 copies of Swords to Plowshares. I just didn't notice that it's not even in the main deck.
Well, the main deck is like 80% black cards, right?
That's true.
At this point, like there are only 4 scrublands and 1 Tainted Field, and I guess 4 fetchlands, but yeah.
And then 4 copies of Withered Wretch. For me, that was like an extended All-Star at the time.
This is the old Scavenging Ooze.
Oh, yeah.
This is Scavenging Ooze before Scavenging Ooze was cool. Actually, this card was also like really cool.
Yeah.
It's 2 black, 2/2, Zombie Cleric. Pay 1 colorless, remove target card in a graveyard from the game.
I still have copies of these that I opened in boosters back in the day. It's very cool.
Yeah.
I played a lot of this like in my extended days.
Yeah. There's also another really cool quote in it where it says, where is it? He goes, it's about they both like compare how many lands they've killed or something. It goes, "I've destroyed some lands this weekend," said Chris as the 2 players looked over each other's deck lists. "I've destroyed my fair share, but I would venture you have destroyed more than me." It's just Chris's deck just kills so many lands.
This is just like the kind of deck that people to this day still try to make work, but can't really, right? But there's almost like every reasonably big tournament, people are trying to make this kind of deck work.
What if we just play this through a Legacy League?
Oh, dude, Kai, do you want to stream that on Wednesday?
Come on, do it.
God damn it.
Let's get him. I reckon you can win, like, I'm going to say you could 2-3 with this.
Honestly, you could get a 2-3 with this, just because like you have him, Dark Ritual, that kind of stuff.
Are you kidding me? Like,
I mean, there's a lot of decks who still struggle.
Yeah, we can maybe win 2 games, maybe. Yeah, against a no-show.
All right, you've given up already.
No. But you know, but no. I'm trying to think like, you know, a part of me wants to play a deck. I don't know which deck, but like something with like a dedicated sideboard cards in the main deck already. Like those like main board engineered plagues, or like the, what was it? The circle of protection red, I think. Or like Pith Needle, like those are like real statements. Like what if you played engineered plague main deck to name Orc, for example?
Yeah. What if you just play a deck of all sideboard heavy hitters and hope they line up well?
I know, and you play your threats in the sideboard.
yeah. Or sideboard Nimble Mongoose.
Oh, good, dude. Let's go.
Like you catch all cards on the sideboard and you bring them in and take out like the stuff that doesn't work, like the super dedicated hate cards that you got in the main. Like it's Bizarro World.
Francis and I were talking on the weekend about playing like black-white Rip Helm, basically, in this metagame, which is kind of just sideboard cards.
Okay, you can do that. Yeah. But
did
man,
black-white Rip Helm, is that also with Besiege the Queen?
Yes, yeah.
The mirror.
So you just play like Enlightened Tutors and Rest in Pieces and Leyline of the Voids and Helms and like Incendiary Bridges and all that crap. And Besiege.
Would have been really good back then, I would guess.
Yeah.
Cool.
Damn.
All right, we'll get Kai to play this. Sweet.
Oh god.
We'll definitely we'll make it happen somehow. By the way, this is we already mentioned Chris got second place, and if I remember reading the coverage correctly, I think that was his 3rd GP finals loss in a row at that point.
Oh wow.
Yeah, well, it happens. Still very much remembered and beloved to this day as one of the coolest players. So, but this tournament, Jonathan Sonne actually took the crown, playing Goblins, as we already mentioned. And this one, it's pretty straightforward, right? 4 copies of Port, 4 copies of Wasteland, all the 4-offs like Incinerator, Lackey, Matron, Piledriver, Ringleader, Warchief, Mock Fanatic, and then your...
Yeah, he's not messing around with the swords and stuff. There's like 3 Siege Gang Commanders, no Kiki, but like this is just really, really goblins.
Goblin Tinkerer, Scourge Prospector. By the way, some really cool interaction. Like I love telling these random stories. You know what Goblin Tinkerer does to Darksteel Colossus?
Let me read it again.
You don't want to have Darksteel Colossus against a deck that has Goblin Tinkerer.
No, because it's just tap, deal 11 damage.
Yeah, destroy target artifact, and then it deals 11 damage to them, and like the artifact stays around.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That's really cool. I'm loving that. So I guess that's one of the silver bullets he's got. He's also got Sharpshooter, you mentioned, Skulk Prospector, which sometimes enables some broken stuff. But overall, like the main deck, very straightforward.
Yeah.
Sideboard, 2nd copy of Goblin Tinkerer, 4 Pithing Needle once again. Like people hated activated abilities for passion back then.
I mean, Goblin Tinkerer's got to be shut down.
Then 3 copies of Price of Progress. Where do we want that? I mean, there was a land stack around, but it's not something you would account for.
Was it like Explorations and Horn of Greed and stuff?
That was if you say Horn of Greed and Explorations, that's Turboland, which played like Walk the Aeons with like flashback for infinite turns and stuff.
Nice.
But there was like a deck that was more like Mana Bond. Like it also had Exploration, but basically the idea was to put in a bunch of like treetop villages
and monasteries, I guess.
Yeah. It was like a lot more aggressive. Yeah. A lot more aggressive. It's kind of weird when you look at the deck that like, oh, treetop village attack you on the 2nd turn for 3. Here we go.
Strong stuff.
We got 4 copies of Pyrokinesis, 1 copy of Siege Gang Commander, and then
the best to last.
The best for last. Very much the best for last. This is one of my favorite like stories where I'm like, dude, did you know which card actually won a Legacy GP? And yeah, it's Patron of the Aki. 2 copies of Patron of the Aki. If you don't know what it does, I don't blame you. I didn't know either before I first saw this deck.
Goblins fans are shaking their heads right now.
Yeah, it's a legendary creature spirit, 4 colorless and 2 red, 5/5. When Patron of the Aki attacks, creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. So you're thinking, why the fuck are we playing this? Except for like the gorgeous artwork, which is like, I'm not even sure what's going on there. Okay, no, I'm looking too deep into the artwork and it's doing weird things to me. Anyway, so it has Goblin Offering, and I don't want to read the minor text. It basically allows you to sacrifice goblins or something. I guess I have to read the reminder text if you guys don't remember what it is. Okay. You may cast this card anytime you could cast an instant by sacrificing goblins and paying the difference in mana cost between this and a sacrificed goblin. Mana cost includes color.
The instant bit gets me. Like, I don't understand that at all. But yeah.
That was actually unexpected. I didn't remember that was instant. Yeah.
So I guess if they like play a removal spell or like they play an Engineered Plague, you just flash in a patron in response. It's so sick.
Also, there are 3 copies of Siegekin Commander in the main deck. Like, if once you're out of gas, maybe you can convert the Siegekin Commander into Patron of the Aki, maybe.
I guess.
But
So
I think
cool.
more than anything, this is probably just like a solid answer to all these like Engineered Plague
That's what
kind
it's
of
for,
cards,
yeah.
maybe, right? Just to have something really like beefy on the battlefield.
In game 2 of the finals, Chris has Engineered Plague down, and what's it called? Sonnet
It's
just
game
like
3, right?
No, game 3. I think he lost with it. Maybe you're right. But he just slams 6 mana and plays Patron of the Aki.
Yeah, I think that's game 3.
Is it? Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, game 3, just 6 mana, Patron of the Aki. Hit you. Psh.
But game 3 is especially weird, right? Because basically the way it starts out is Chris goes for turn 1 Engineered Plague. And then the other guy, Sonnet, doesn't really do anything.
Kills the Lackey, but then does nothing. Well,
Yeah, and Chris has like a Dark Blast and like keeps stretching Dark Blast, but doesn't hit a second land drop. Like he kills a bunch of creatures, but never makes the second land drop. And eventually the other guy just goes like Patron of the Aki, kill you.
that's a tough way to go.
It's just like, this kind is so weird. It's just like, okay, what do I, like, I have these synergies. What else do I want? I want a 6 mana 5/5 that I can also like, I guess, instant speed and like have some kind of synergy there. This is such a weird card to me.
Yeah.
But I love that it actually won the tournament.
Absolutely.
Guys, what do you have played back then? Like if you're in 2005 in I think November it says at Philadelphia, you had any card of any deck available. What are you playing?
If I could like see this top 8, obviously not know what was good and stuff, I think what would appeal to me the most would be Dead Guy for sure. Yeah. Just Hippie and Dark Confident and Nantiku Shade are just so cool to me. So yeah.
I would definitely go with Nimble Mongoose. I cannot pass on Nimble Mongoose. It's
Cyborg or main
impossible.
deck?
Probably like a 3-1 split.
Yeah, nice. I like it.
What about you, Julian?
Well, I would probably go with Rock Diver, like Rock Threshold, kind of like you. I would kind of want to play Solidarity. I just don't know how whether I could really raise goblins. But I think there's like not a lot of hate for Solidarity in all of these decks.
I mean, Abeyance,
maybe I would
come
take
on.
my chances. Yeah, but you like the decks that play Abeyance, they're usually not that fast. So like, I think I kind of want to play Solidarity, but if I wasn't going to play Solidarity, I would play Rock Threshold for sure. I wonder if, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years from now, people are going to be like, this GP Bologna in 2019, did you see what people were playing back then? Holy shit.
They played Baleful Strix? What the hell?
and fucking Oko and things. You know?
Surgical in the sideboard? Holy shit, what the fuck is wrong? Surgical main deck staple, everybody plays it main. Okay. So I think, guys, anything else you want to touch on here other than like congratulations to all the players who made top 8. It was a pleasure for us like reviewing all of this. I don't know if people enjoy this, I'd love to do more of these. Like maybe not like every other week or every other month, but at times like I really enjoy these historic deep dives. Like we did, for example, when we looked at the first 6 or 8 legacy bands. That was like an episode we did like 2 years ago. That was very popular. So people, if you like this, let us know on Twitter at EternalMTG. Let us know on everyday-eternal.com, the website that's basically coming out any day now. Or just send us an email at what is it like? Julian at everyday-eternal.com. I still want a better domain, but all like you know what's the problem with eternal domains? They're all taken by some kind of Christian organization. Literally, I looked it up. Like any kind of variation that you can do with Eternal MTG, like they all belong to either some like domain hoarder or some kind of. There's like this Christian guy, this I don't know priest who owns Eternal something that's related to us. That would also be a really good domain for us. But he also like uses it for. But he doesn't really use it. Okay, there goes my rant. Like we talked about Christianity at the beginning of this podcast, where Kai just faked his way in, and now they're taking away our domain names. So what can you do? But yeah, everyday-eternal.com. Remember that one.
Cool. I'll try my best.
Awesome. So if you want to support us in any other way, you can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Holy shit, guys. We have like 75-star ratings on Spotify. I didn't even know.
Only 70? That's not good enough. Wait, what?
It's actually insane. Like, it's way more than... I mean, it's also like pretty easy to do like a rating on Spotify. I think it's a lot harder on Apple Podcasts. So that's the other side of it. But yeah, I love it so much. Like, seriously, people, I have some service that aggregates all of our reviews and ratings, and it's just like through the roof. Thank you so much for that. And of course, you can support us on Patreon. We are still working on reworking the whole Patreon structure. We, I guess, have more news on that on one of the upcoming episodes or something, but still not fully decided. But yeah, just to be aware of that. And with that, shoutouts to everybody supporting us. Shoutouts to everybody playing in Legacy GPs. I was going to say to this day, whoever played in a Legacy GP or wants to play in one, it's a lot of fun. We just keep doing these things. And guys, help me out. What are you up to now that we conclude?
I'm going to build goblins to probably play tomorrow evening at my local.
Oh, Tuesday night, right?
Yeah. But I can't decide to go like Muxus and Mind Goblin or like classic goblins.
Dude, Mind Goblin has destroyed me like so hard. Like I literally, for a moment, I was like, is this card like bugged because it kept rolling a 19 on Magic Online? I was like, can this card do anything other than like make 5 mana every time?
Nope.
Or 6 mana even? Yeah. Kai, what are you up to? Like you're already preparing your Dead Guy Ale for Wednesday, right?
100%. I'm 100%. Yeah. I'm not the biggest Dark Confidant myself, Dark Confidant fan, but
you're not the biggest Dark Confidant.
What?
But a Nantuko Shade really hits different. Like Nantuko Shade has, I was a kid back then when this card, went quote unquote viral and
when it was viable. Okay, cool. So, yeah, for me, I'm still in between jobs. I'm going to figure out a bunch of stuff about the podcast. And with that, we're going to see you again next month in October. And everybody have a good time. Try out your own favorite decks from back then. Maybe we have some kind of like 2005 Legacy League again. And with that, see you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.